Call this meeting to order. We'd like to welcome everybody to the regular session of Union County Board of Supervisors. Board members will attend either in person, by telephone, or remotely via electronic conferencing. And we will start with the pledge. Supervisor Pancrazzi, would you please lead us?
Will everyone please join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor Pancrazzi, and we will go to call to public. Call to public is held for public benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-43101H, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion and decision at a future date. Public comments may be made in person or submitted by email at publiccomment@yumacountyaz.gov. The email forms of public comment will be accepted until 8 a.m. the morning of the meeting. All public comments will be read aloud during the Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting that starts at 9 a.m. Desiree, do we have any emails?
No, we do not.
Thank you very much. We do have two, and we have one from Charlene, and that pertains to rezoning case, and David Simpson, which that's same thing. So if you don't mind, we'll hold those until then. Is there anybody else that desires to speak right now? Okay, wonderful. We will go to presentations, proclamations, and appointments. Does anybody have any appointments? No appointments. Presentations, we will have the county administrator. County administration, we have the update on the Law Enforcement Training Academy facility from Arizona Western College President Daniel Korn, Vice President for Finance and Administrative Services, Ross Poffenberger. Welcome, gentlemen. Take it away.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, Dan.
Vice Chairman Lyons, members of the board, and as always, a special shout out to Arizona Western College Hall of Fame member, Lynn Pancrazzi. Just thrilled to be able to give a brief update about progress being made on our Law Enforcement Training Academy, and then we'll top off the presentation with an invitation to a groundbreaking, which we'll have very early next month. I'm going to take just a few moments to share with you some of the amazing things happening at your community college, Arizona Western College. Right now, we are at the beginning of a semester where we have once again seen enrollment growth. We're up 6% in enrollment. And I will share with you that there is one community college in Arizona that has grown over the last 5 years, and that's Arizona Western College. In part because of our dual enrollment, where we extend the opportunity to earn college credit to high school students, and over the last 6 years, we have grown dual enrollment by 640%. Last 2 years graduations, we've graduated over 100 high school students with their associate degree before they earned their high school degree, because we graduate about a week earlier. So we're creating that college-going culture in the communities in which we serve, and we're super proud of that. The next reason for that growth is new programming. We kind of blew up the higher ed model and created the Entrepreneurial College under the leadership of CEO Ritika Dewan. And this is a different approach to providing education to our community. We do, and we will always provide high quality transfer instruction, but we also want to provide very nimble, non-credit, just-in-time training for students, members of the community who are looking to upgrade their employment, to seek promotions in their current employment, or just get reskilled and retrained. Think of lots of IT type certificates. It was explained to me this way, actually, it was in a book that really resonated with me. When I was a kid, if you liked a song, you had to buy the album. Now, if you like the song, you buy the song. And that's our approach through the Entrepreneurial College for skills training. If you need a specific set of skills, they don't need to be wrapped into a certificate or a degree. You can come get those specific skills and get the job that you want or get the promotion that you desire. And that's a big part also of our enrollment. We're going to share with you, or Vice President Popperberger is going to share with you the progress being made on our Law Enforcement Training Academy. But if you've been anywhere near campus or some of our other campuses lately, you've seen a lot of growth. You've seen a lot of building. Earlier, or very late last month, we took possession of the Matador Activity Center. Now it's not fully operational. We got to get the equipment in. We got to get the furniture, but it is substantially complete, and it is going to be amazing. It is amazing. If any of you would like a tour, you just let me know, and I'll walk you through there. There's a maker space, student collaboration space, virtual reality, green rooms for folks to put together, podcasts and whatnot. Classrooms are. It's just an amazing facility, befitting of the finest university, but it's right here in Yuma for our students because our students, our community deserves that. And then De Anza Residence Hall is, we're hope to move students in January. This is a 3-story building. Originally, we had planned for a 2-story building with a 3rd floor shell, but then through some negotiations with Northern Arizona University, they gave us the money to build out that 3rd floor because they have added an engineering program. They are adding medical programs. We are becoming a destination where folks are coming to Yuma to receive their baccalaureate and master's level training, and they wanted use of that. So they have first right of refusal for that 3rd floor, and any rooms left over will go to AWC students. The good news is that revenue in perpetuity belongs to the college. So we've crafted a really good deal that's a win-win-win, we feel, for everyone. And we got rid of our bookstore. You don't want to be in the book selling business. You don't want to be a bookstore these days because students secure their books online. They share books. There's book sharing websites. So when our contract with Barnes & Noble expired, we let that lapse, and we're using that prime space right next to the Starbucks in our campus to create the University Center, where all 3 of our state universities, along with AWC, will have a place. So if someone is a high school student looking to further their education in Yuma, that's a place to go. If they're an AWC student looking to transfer, that's the place to go. If they're a returning student looking for what educational opportunities exist in Yuma County, that's the place to go. A one-stop shop, creating and building on, again, that college-going culture that we're building at AWC. Our growth is not just on the Yuma campus. We received $3.8 million from the Arizona Commerce Authority, and thank you to many of you on the DS there for that. That was a overnight victory, 2 years in the making. We kept fighting for those dollars, and this will expand our Welton manufacturing facility. I'll take you back a couple of years ago. We shut the doors and turned off the lights in Welton during COVID. We had basically said that center is not viable, the enrollment is not there, and then we reimagined it. What could it be? And created our advanced manufacturing program out there really during COVID. It went from 0 students to 200 students, caught the eye of the Arizona Commerce Authority, and now we're expanding it. We're basically doubling it in size. We think we'll have 400 students coming to Welton on an annual or on a semester basis in the very near future. We were also able to secure $1 million from Senator Kelly that will help equip that facility once built. So a lot of growth, I will also add, super important that everyone here know, all of this growth without a cent of new taxpayer dollars. Okay? Yes, yeah, not a cent of new taxpayer dollars. No bond was asked for. No, we're using revenue bonds. We're using state funds that we'll find out about, Arizona Commerce Authority, partnerships with the university, so on and so forth. So an awful lot of growth, an awful lot of building without a nickel of new taxpayer dollars. Super proud of that. Just to kind of set the stage for my colleague Ross to come up, this is where it all began. Actually, it began before this when a number of local chiefs came to Arizona Western College and said, we are spending a fortune sending our cadets to Tucson or to Phoenix for training. Is there something the college could do to provide that training here in Yuma so we can keep them here local? We're not paying 20 weeks of per diem and travel. And when they go to Phoenix, they get trained as a Phoenix police officer, not necessarily what Yuma County Sheriff wants or the Welton PD or the Yuma PD. So there it is at groundbreaking. You can, all the way to the left, you can just see a little bit of his shoulder. That's Ross Poppenberger's shoulder there. He was there that day in a different capacity. But we were there breaking ground, and we're down at the Ray Kroc Center in temporary facilities, right? We've spent some money to renovate it. We've been doing amazing work since that day. There have been 19 agencies that have participated. 191 cadets have gone through that training since we broke that ground. We're looking forward to another, just had another graduating class. And there's a key number there, right? We're coming up on $4 million in savings. Because not only is the per diem eliminated and the travel eliminated, but through some very creative work, we have partnered with Arizona at Work to have the actual training costs paid for by Arizona at Work. So it has gone from a cost prohibitive to our local law enforcement providers to nothing. So we're super proud of what we've done there and what we will do when this amazing facility that we have in partnership with you all comes to fruition. So with that, I'll invite my colleague, Ross Poppenberger, and he can tell you about the progress being made on the law enforcement training.
Great presentation, Daniel.
Thank you, Dr. Corr.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Corr. Supervisors, it's a pleasure to be here today, and I'm excited to put this picture up here. This is a graphic depiction of what the building is going to look like. It's going to be co-located next to our Public Safety Institute, and so the architect took great strides to make the buildings look similar in nature, and so this is it. But there's a lot of work that's gone into this building that I'll get to here shortly. Kind of background on it for some in the audience is about $7.5 million came from Governor Ducey. And a special thanks to Supervisor Lyons in his previous capacity in helping us secure those dollars and getting those dollars coming in to get this needed project going. And then in addition to that, just the cost of construction and what we're doing with the building, Arizona Western, we're contributing somewhere between $2.7 and $3 million for the additional cost to get the building that we need. As Dr. Corr said, it's been a very collaborative planning process with the Board of Supervisors, the Yuma County Sheriff Office, Yuma Police Department, and the tribal police departments as well. And I can't say enough on the collaboration piece on this to get the facility that we need so that all of our training is accurate and what all the agencies need. So we're excited to say that we broke ground in July. The end of July, we had equipment out there pushing dirt around, and so we're pretty excited about that. As Dr. Corr said, we'll have some flyers out for an official groundbreaking ceremony coming up on the 5th of October. But we're excited about pushing dirt back in July. I want to highlight the fact that this has been a super deliberate process in this. Architectural design, everything down to what kind of flooring they're going to need, and literally a discussion about, hey, part of the curriculum is cleaning the floor. It's a task that the cadets do. So what kind of floor makes sense to go in? So it's amazing the amount that's gone in. And so I say that to highlight that I didn't know that. I'm a retired military guy, but I didn't know cadets have a certain protocol for cleaning floors, and so there's just been a ton of collaboration going in from all interested parties, the other law enforcement agencies, our cadre of instructors and whatnot, and so it's gone down to every last detail in this particular building. the way we are building it is through a construction manager at risk project, and so that was awarded to local contractor Pilkington Construction, and so we're really excited about keeping those dollars local in Yuma. And guidance and discussion with the Pilkington leadership team is our intent is to have the primary subcontractors be local Yuma contractors as well. And so we've asked them, once we award to the prime, we're out of those decision making criteria, of course. But certainly ask them to focus on keeping it, which they do. So we talk about substantial completion. And you heard Dr. Kaur mention that term for the Matador Activity Center. Right now, we're scheduled for substantial completion in July, and what that means is they're done with the main construction part. It looks like it's occupiable. It won't be yet, because then part of it is things that we at Arizona Western College need to do. We need to put the furniture in and the carpeting, and well, not carpeting, but furniture and IT stuff and some of those things. So we're scheduled for substantial completion in July of 24, and that will give us time to get our stuff put into that building and make it operational for our first class in October. So we're excited about that. We're rushing towards the finish line on that. It seems like a while out, but it's going fast already. And so right at about a year right now, we'll be training cadets in our new facility. And as Dr. Kaur said, we encourage anybody to come out, walk the sidewalks of our campus, and go see the great stuff that's going on out there. We're pretty excited about the new buildings and all the things that are going on. And with that, my last chart, subject to questions, is highlighting our groundbreaking ceremony. Groundbreaking ceremony will be on Thursday, October 5th, and come on out and see us, participate with us cutting the ribbon. At this point, any questions about the Law Enforcement Training Academy?
Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, jokes?
Just thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you very much for all that you're doing.
All right, thank
We
you.
appreciate all your support. And
Ross, Dr. Kaur,
Yeah.
thank you.
hope to see you on the 5th.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here with us today.
We're going to go run a college.
Go to work.
It's a great day to be
It's a great day to be a Matador.
There
yes.
you All right, presentation item number 2, Matt Weatherly, President, Public Sector Personal Consultants regarding the 2023 Yuma County and Superior Court Compensation Study. Death by PowerPoint.
All right.
That's
Good
okay.
morning. That was a
This is
tough
going to
act
be
to follow.
really surprising.
Yeah, there'll be fun ones to follow. Vice Chair Lyons, members of the board, appreciate the opportunity to visit. We just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce the study, answer any questions that you might have. We're underway. We spent the last several weeks meeting with quite a bit of the leadership throughout the county, discussing jobs that are hard to fill, hard to recruit, higher turnover positions. It's a very, very wild time to be in compensation. So depending on what you all do the other 4 days a week, full well across all industries, the challenge in recruiting and retaining qualified staff as a service organization. That's generally mission number one wherever we walk in. As our name suggests, public sector personnel consultants, this is all that we do. We work with cities and counties, colleges, school districts, special districts throughout the United States, for the most part in the Western United States, performing classification and compensation studies, defining jobs, defining job descriptions, conducting salary surveys, and trying to develop sustainable, lasting compensation solutions. We have a fairly long history in Yuma. We've wrapped up now multiple studies for the city of Yuma. We have assisted the county and the Superior Court in the past with studies. So this is an organization-wide initiative that affords us the opportunity to answer some key questions. How are we doing compared to others? Where do we need to be in order to recruit and in order to retain? Why you do a study? I mentioned certainly the recruitment and retention really over the last 18 to 24 months for a lot of our clients has been, at best, very, very challenging. Turnover has increased across a lot of industries. CPI inflation has directly impacted particularly entry level, but I wouldn't say it's exclusive to entry-level positions, but we feel it, right? When we go through a drive-through or we go to the store, the private sector solution is we'll just raise the price because we have to pay our people more money, right? What that builds is obviously a very significant challenge locally and regionally in trying to recruit and retain staff at all levels, but in particularly around that living wage level, around that entry level. Through minimum wage legislation and living wage, the floor has really started to come up at us quite a bit. Those universal adjustments, those cost of living adjustments, wildly appropriate, to try and maintain position. The study itself, I'm reluctant to say every time we show up, it's always above and beyond, but this will be above and beyond. Effectively, trying to maintain the overall relationship to market is super critical through those budget discussions. This is kind of a deeper dive. This is an opportunity to look job by job to ensure that when we do provide those cost of living adjustments, those merit adjustments, those step increases, however you administer salaries, that we're doing it on a fairly consistent basis, job by job by job. Okay? Obviously, we want to not get out in front of an adopted or stated pay philosophy or pay strategy. But what we often find when we survey 200-300 jobs is that we're in better shape for some positions than others. So certainly I'll take this opportunity in case any employees are listening. This is not the means by which everyone sees a salary adjustment. That's what your July one is for, or maybe your January one is for. This is the job by job discussion where maybe some positions are more competitive than others, but if we need to see some movement, it will very rarely be a universal movement across all jobs or across all salary ranges. We want to arm your decision makers, your budget folks with data to ensure that we can match up whatever the answers are to the test. If that's to be at market average, if that's to be a little bit better than market average, whatever our goals are, we can help articulate the potential costs and map out a path to try and get there. A couple of key terms. I don't want to get out in front of myself. I won't belabor too many of these, but classification, the number of jobs. The county's got about 450 different job descriptions. Superior Court is included in the study. They have another 130 to 150 different job classifications. Compensation, of course, is the means or the mechanism by which we express a value to employees. The compensation structure, so the pay table or the pay structure, all of your positions currently reside on a pay table that have a salary range. A lot of those have a step where employees, when they're meeting or exceeding expectations, are going to move steps. And then periodically that whole table moves, right? We've seen the whole table move quite a bit over the last few years, really just driven by inflation and by CPI. But what that has the potential of causing is a little bit of compression. And we'll talk about that right behind kind of the now what piece of this. Comparators and competitors are also a really good place to start in the conversation of where do we get employees from and where do we lose employees to. There's both a challenge and an opportunity. You're one of the big games in town, right? You're the only county around, but you've got the city. They might be stealing people. You've potentially got federal presence, state presence, private sector presence. So we're trying to identify a mix of agencies that both have jobs like ours, so comparators. I don't want to get too far afield, and then if I do, I need to be really sensitive to, for example, any cost of living differentials. I also need to find big enough agencies. I mentioned you have 450 job titles, plus the courts. We're at about 600 job titles that are included in the study. Those are pretty large public employers by nature to give us a fighting chance at surveying, say half of all of the jobs that we want to look at. The goal of the survey is to find out, hey, where are we? How are we doing? But then also inform you to say, where do we want to be or where do we need to be? So we're going to hope that through the collection of their salary plans, job descriptions, org charts, that we can answer some of those questions and use them at least as a guideline or a baseline to identify where we reside currently. So a mix of counties, a couple of municipalities, the school district, some state level, as well as some federal level comparators, law enforcement for some of the positions, like detention, probation. Some of those are also included in this study. So we've got to be aware of who has jobs like these so that we can make some meaningful comparisons. We have begun data collection. That looks like basically building out a survey database from scratch. We'll probably be up much closer to about 300 different job titles or more when we include the court positions in our analysis. We'll be hoping to have a draft of that material in November with the intent of pondering the now what question in time for the start of the calendar year. Again, that survey will identify how we're doing currently, and across 200 or 300 jobs, by happy accident, we might be pretty competitive for some jobs. Maybe we have fallen behind for others. Typically, the goal is to be as consistent as we can be. Meaning, I don't want some positions at 102% of market and others at 87% of market. I want to try and be as consistent as we can, whether it's at 90 or 95 or 100 or 102% or whatever it is. None of the data that we collect will back you into a corner. Now, there has been money set aside by your staff to implement our findings. So what this translates into is a discussion about salary range placement, what our pay tables look like. So 90% of this is still a paper exercise, comparing job descriptions, comparing salary ranges, reestablishing our market position consistently for all positions. And then, right, and the end then is the money part. When it becomes a people exercise, if I move your pay range, do I move your salary? Said another way, how are we doing in getting people into our pay range, knowing that historically the structure has had to move and move and move. And if people don't move a little bit faster than that, we stand the risk of having 5 to 7 year employees that are, I won't say stuck, but they're kind of down on step 4 or step 5, and there's not a whole lot of room between them and a new hire. So we're ever sensitive to the existing workforce the minute that we overlay change to pay range placements or pay structures. Okay? So before we move all of those structures, we started to look at how we're doing for range penetration. We do have just over 100 people, not the courts, but take the courts out of it for a minute. We have just over 100 people that have more than 7 years in their job that are a little bit low. Globally, the average time in job is about 5 years. The average step in the plan right now is about step 4. So that's not awful, but that's before we potentially see any need for market correction job by job as well. So I'm trying to isolate the moving parts a little bit, but we don't have, fortunately, oodles and oodles of people falling really low yet. But I'll know a little bit more here in about 6 weeks when we have all of our data collected. Some questions and really just kind of plant some seeds, because I think we'll get a chance to visit again when it comes to implementation. What are those factors that influence our ability and our intent to compete? Should we be on a sliding scale of conservative to aggressive? Maybe aggressive is a really strong word when it comes to pay, but is it geography? Is it presence of local competition? Is it the abundance or absence of a local workforce where we can get, train, and keep individuals in our positions? Now we're all the way back onto my definition slide for a minute. What jobs do we have? What levels of jobs do we have? Are we able to get people, develop people, train people, promote people, and keep them? Now, pre-COVID, and again, I'm Peter Pan here. We do this on paper, an awful lot. But pre-COVID, we could very clearly distinguish a job from a career. And it was kind of cute. It was $12 an hour, it was $13 an hour, and you expect a little bit more turnover. That line has definitely blurred all the way past probably $20 to $24 an hour. So in that maybe $40K a year kind of range, where people are willing to jump. They're willing to jump for $2, $3, $4 or 10%. Maybe the light bulb hasn't come on about benefits, about total comp, about stability or perceived stability in the public sector. We've got all of those factors that get poured into conversations around where do we need to position ourselves in order to recruit and in order to retain. We're also going to look a little bit at some of the benefits, health insurance contributions, any other ad pays, that kind of thing are also on our radar, just to make sure that we're not missing any opportunities to create kind of added value both on the service side as well as the professional development side. We have begun, we're just kind of wrapping up now our virtual meetings with departments, looking at job titles, making sure if we do have any classification issues that we need to dig into, that we review job titles, we review job levels, and we review job descriptions a little bit. We are in the throes now of performing that salary survey, digesting a lot of data. And so we've got staff set aside that are only working on your project, which is very unique because we typically have about 30 studies a year going on at any given spot. I've isolated a couple of our staff because this is a big and fairly fast-moving initiative. So we'll be able to model out what that starts to look like. We'll come back to you with some options. We'll come back to you with kind of I'll say an all-in number effectively, but if we need to parse that out or spread that out over multiple budget years. So if, for example, we've broken the system over time, we can probably fix it over time, not all at once. This is always the time I tell employees not to go buy a new truck, just because we're doing a salary survey, kind of manage expectations a little bit. But this is something that the organization wishes to do for employees, not to employees. So it's meant to be seen as a very transparent and positive endeavor, even if it takes us a little bit of time to get there. So my goal is really over the next 6 weeks to answer some of those first questions around the survey, have that data collected, know where we stand, and then start working with staff on the now what piece of it so that we can come back to you, again, as part of the approved budget for '24 to consider any further market corrections. Okay. Any comments, questions?
First of all, let me just in the open. I've been in office for a long time, and I've never remember seeing a market survey that didn't work out, so that we had to increase the salary of employees. Having said that, I think the moment I said yes to doing a market research, I knew that was going to happen. So the question I have for you is, why do you include counties in, like, I know Imperial is next to us, California. San Bernardino is sort of close to us in terms of size. It's a little bigger in size. But California has never been a good market for me to compare to. They are always higher. I mean, invariably higher.
Sure.
And they don't really represent what, I think I just got this Don't California, my Arizona sticker here. So, that really is timely, I think.
Sure.
And I think it refers to something else, but, because I think you want to California your salaries.
Yes.
Because we do lose some people to California, but why California?
Yeah, I think what we were trying to get at for those county-specific positions, when you look at this list, is that without them, for example, because we didn't go, I mean, we're pretty far afield. We took the biggest counties around the state. The cost of living in Coconino is every bit of 20% higher than U.S. average. San Bernardino is about 18 to 20% above U.S. average. We're going to have to take that into account. But I need to get data from somewhere. And you have some positions that are very, very unique to county government structures, that my fear was that we would only have 2 or 3 data points for some of our positions. I would much rather over-survey for a moment and answer some of those questions, but then if in reaction to that, they're consistently the highest when we take into consideration cost of living, then I'm more than happy to react to that. I think that my goal is to just really give us a fighting chance at having 6 to 8 or 8 to 10 data points for as many jobs as possible. But that balance that up against maybe the lack of jobs that I would have to pick from if I went to an Apache or to a Navajo or to a La Paz or some of those that are a little bit smaller. They only have 100 to 150 job titles, or maybe a third of the size and of the workforce. So we're trying to get other big counties without going too far afield.
That's on that side. On the other side,
Yeah.
which is the additional comparatives. I mean, if you use Customs and Border Patrol, they move too fast. They got, especially right now, they're changing their.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like following. I said one time, the rabbit is a greyhound. You're never going to catch him up. I mean, you keep moving them up, they move it up. Same thing with the Department of Correction. This is not like winning a race. This is like staying on the race for me. It's more like, okay, just, and I think that us, county, we probably are better off just looking at increasing our pay raises when we do them, throughout the whole system than it is to try to catch up on the market surveys. It's really difficult to catch up, especially when the comparables are in California, or when the comparables are like the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol or the school districts. I mean, everybody competes with everybody else. So the law enforcement field, it's a very competitive field.
It moves in its own orbit, for sure.
Yes,
sir.
and I've always said that South County, especially South County, is flooded with people that work in the law enforcement field. I mean, from the marshal's office to the FBI to the. So I'm looking forward to looking at this and seeing if you hit those points. I just wanted to make sure that I asked that question, especially the California one, because I always thought California. I mean, that's where school districts lose their people because. They can drive, an hour and be in El Centro and, go back and forth. Maybe the gas expense will deter some, but most of them cost
Yeah.
of living increases, those kind of things. I've learned to consider that. So I'm just asking the question, I sort of know the answer. They're next to us, they're comparable, they have the job descriptions that we have. So in some ways that I see that as a almost an inevitable thing when we look at counties. Now, the second thing that I wanted to ask you a little bit about is today's headline is 50 cents. The minimum wage is going up 50 cents in Arizona. So there are some factors in there that are going to come into play, like minimum wages that are going to need compression. We always deal with compression here. Hopefully, the impact's going to be minimal, but that will mean that those job descriptions are going to go up so that you don't have people coming in at a higher wage than you had people
Right.
hired last year or the year before. So I expect that to happen. I think it's pretty thorough. I like the fact that you've covered most of these areas in your report to us. I'm looking forward to looking at it. I kind of think I know what's going to happen, but we have very few people stuck at the top, which we do have some people stuck at the top. They have no place to go, really. It's tough. And I hope in some ways we learned that in some cases, seniority is taking us a long time to get to some of these people. And we certainly don't want to lose them because they look at a 10% job increase monetary wise in someplace else, and we lose them and we lose 20, 30 years of experience with them. All right, that was it.
Yeah, no, I think the only thing that I would add, and I really appreciate, it's really hard when I don't get questions, so I'd much rather have questions and comments. The additional comparators, I think, especially in law enforcement, reflective of where we're losing people to. I think to know, is one thing. To react, whether we react at some portion of, but to know, hey, this is where we're losing people. Let's talk about that a little bit. So.
When you mention U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, Homeland Security has got like 5 or 6 different areas where they can take an officer.
Yes.
It's not just U.S. Customs and Border Patrol.
Right.
There's immigration. There's a lot of more positions. Would it be correct to just simply put Homeland Security in there instead?
Yeah, I think so. We've done that in the past for some of our work in Tucson, and we just wrapped up Santa Cruz County as well. And it's really the same GS scale in a lot of instances, but it's a band like GS 5 to 7 or 9 to 11 or whatever, that kind of thing. So there's a little bit of a banding there that covers an awful lot.
Where's the City of Yuma Police Department? We do lose some, I think, to the Yuma Police Department. Is there not are they not considered as a competitor?
Yeah, they're on our main for most jobs.
Oh,
so
Yuma.
they'll be, they'll definitely be.
Oh, the City of Yuma. You
Yeah.
include them in the City of Yuma.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, they do take quite a few of your employees from visiting with your departments.
But
Very good. Other questions, Vice Chair?
No? Thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate that.
Thank you all. We'll see you again.
Thank you. Item number 3, Chairman proclaims September 2023 to be voter registration month in Yuma County. Do we have anything from Richard
do you have the
Kika?
proclamation?
or Kika? We do have a proclamation. Didn't know if you wanted to say something and then do the proclamation or whomever.
I'll be quick if you want.
Okay.
Morning, Board. My name is Rick Colwell, the recorder. Just a reminder, September is voter registration month in Yuma County. Actually, voter registration is every month. We just formally recognize it in September. And I want to remind Yuma County residents that you must be registered to vote to participate in any upcoming elections. If you're a new voter, you have to be registered with outside of 29 days. So if don't come in a day before the election looking to register. You can register online. You can pick up forms at libraries, post office. You can come to our office. But let's get registered and vote.
Thank you very much, Richard. We do have a proclamation for you, Supervisor Simmons.
Alrighty, proclaiming September 2023 as voter registration month in Yuma County. Whereas September 20th, 2023 marks the 11th anniversary of National Voter Registration Day, a non-bipartisan civic holiday celebrating our democracy. And whereas county voter registration and election officials seek to create broad awareness of voters' registration opportunities in order to reach voters who may not be registered or need to update their current registration information. And whereas the Yuma County Board of Supervisors is in partnership with the Yuma County Recorder, wish to support voter education and promote the importance of voter registration and citizen engagement within our communities. And whereas National Voter Registration Day has been endorsed by the National Association of Secretaries of State, the National Association of State Elections Directors, the U.S. Elections Assistance Commission, and the National Association of Election Officials. And whereas Yuma County Voter Registration Month is a time set aside to celebrate democracy and remind all citizens of the availability of services provided by Yuma County and trusted partners to register voters, update voter information, and provide information related to the electoral process. Now, therefore, the month of September 2023 is hereby proclaimed to be Voter Registration Month in Yuma County.
All right. Richard, do you want to come forward and get this? Let's take a picture. Yes, bring the staff.
Just alone, Richard.
You're the ones doing the middle.
Yeah, I know. I'll give her.
And we used to have to show with a no vision.
Thank you all.
I haven't run high yet.
Nope, I'm still there.
We're gonna open up some seats.
Item number 4, Human Resources, recognition of Yuma County as recipient of the 2022 Healthy Arizona Worksites Program Top Platinum Award. Let's go Platinum. All right.
Good morning, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board. My name is Carla Vasquez. I am the benefits manager here for Yuma County Human Resources. And today I'm so excited to present to you as the employer this Platinum Award for all our work and dedication for 2022. Our wellness program continues to grow. We appreciate you guys, the Board of Supervisors, YCBT, our county administrator, our directors and management who support this program. It is thanks to everyone that we're able to do this every year. I want to thank the girls, Alejandra and Angelica, who assist me with all the activities. We do it with such love and passion for the well-being of the Yuma County employees. To receive this award, the Benefits Division hosted so many activities. We did biometric screenings, 7 total, to benefit Yuma County employees to assist them in receiving their wellness incentive. We bring in biometric clinics throughout different departments so they can get that quickly during working hours if possible. We do 4 wellness challenges a year. We did health fair, benefits fair. We partnered up with the city to pay for any fun runs and walks that they had. This one is sponsored by Blue Cross Blue Shield, and many of our employees take advantage of this. They get to run these or walk these at no cost to them. We offered philanthropic events to benefit the community. We provided on-site screening like mom and pop. We had 90 women who were able to get their mom screening and 52 gentlemen. There were 2 concerning findings out of this, which of course I just get the number, but this, even one life that can be saved or that they can go ahead and go take a deeper look at, it's worth it, bringing them every single year. We continue to offer pain relief therapy for our Yuma County employees, which there are a total of 12 sessions a year that they can get at no cost to them. We continue to do employee appreciation events, partnering up with employee relations. Last year, we did 6 artsy-fartsy events where employees got to relax and just paint and de-stress. We had 200 employees who participated in this event. We continue to offer monthly webinars and continue to support the employees with EAP support services. So again, we just want to thank all of the management, all of the leadership that supports our wellness program, and of course, the Yuma County and Court employees who participate. because without them, we wouldn't be able to host all these successfully. We appreciate everyone who supports our events. And if you have never tried one, this is the year to come in and join us. Our next health fair is October 11. We currently have a weight loss challenge going on. So there's always something going on for our employees. I think this talks really greatly about what an employer Yuma County is. We really truly care about the well-being of our employees, and my team and I, we really dedicate a huge part of our day coming up with activities and creative ways to keep them informed and engaged in this program. So we're giving you guys today, we have a new logo. So you guys are lucky ones who get to see the new swag, the new
Orange.
logo. Orange for Yuma County. I couldn't find a blue one. So this is our new logo. We're introducing it. We believe that it is more aligned to what we are doing for Yuma County employees. So we just, again, want to thank you for everything, and everything is worth it. The amount of time and support that we're putting into our employees, we are definitely being recognized in a huge scale that Yuma County cares about their employees. So thank you so much.
It's going to be included in the market survey.
Look, I have a number since 2016, platinum.
Hey, wanted to congratulate you on your
Higher
innovation.
resignation at all?
No, but I kind of wish there was. So we can keep going.
Let's take a picture.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
We need to get our steps in somehow, right, Tony? So we're staying on that weight loss challenge?
Put it in the kid this
You're trying different things.
This is where you squeeze it.
Hold your breath.
I know. Congratulations, Granny.
Thank you.
Suggest we get a new cabin.
Thank you for the trick-or-treating bag.
Yeah.
Hey, it's orange, it's
I
pumpkin
need
color.
3, man.
I like bright orange.
We'll now go to the consent calendar. The following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. Does anybody wish to pull anything?
Number 10 and 11, please.
Ooh, I was going to say 6 and 8, but I'll take it back. I'll
Oh.
just do 8.
Okay, so does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, we go ahead and approve consent calendar items 1 through 12 with the exception of 8. You said 11 and 12?
No, 10 and 11.
10 and 11. 10 and 11.
Lynn, you need somebody here for 11? Or no,
I'll
No,
second
no,
it.
probably-
11?
probably just
You need somebody? You need somebody here?
Do you need someone here from the sheriff's department?
Can you talk? Yeah. Is there anybody here from the sheriff's?
Yeah, other than the security guy. They probably weren't expecting to be called in for that. It's a bomb squad. They didn't expect to be called in.
Okay, do we have a second?
Okay.
Unless you think the market study is like a bomb. So,
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item number 8, Public Works.
I just wanted to, excuse
Go
me,
ahead.
this is,
Go ahead, Joe.
this is a unanimous consent. The mayor circulates the county needs and authorize the sale in the amount of $500 for a 2010 Ford F-150 and a $500 for a 2010 Ford F-150, two Ford F-150s. And I just wanted to highlight the fact that that process where we go ahead and have some surplus properties and first we look at the entities that belong to Yuma County, I like. And I
I do
just wanted
too.
to let the opportunity go by to thank you for looking at supplying those pieces of equipment to entities like Walton, any of the smaller entities, because they sure as hell need them more than we do. And when we sell them out to the general public, they end up just, making profit for somebody else instead of helping the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion, we approve item 8 as presented.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Kelly, do you want to say anything about that, or?
Got it approved.
Or the process,
You're
or-
ahead.
I just want to thank you. We want to do anything we can to help them and be a They are in big need, so whatever we can do. And they did come out and look at the vehicles, and they were happy with them. So.
Did they throw in free rounds of golf for the employees, or?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay, all right, just making sure.
I appreciate them helping. Thank you.
Oh, that's right, the gift clause, right?
Yes, there's a gift clause, yes.
That'd be a.
I just want to see if Bill was paying attention, that was it.
I do have a question for legal. When it says unanimous consent, that's it. Unanimous consent of those present? Right.
Okay. Thank you very much. Item 10.
I'd just like zoning to come up, planning and zoning to come up and discuss this
Explain this.
a little bit for me, please.
Javier Barraza, Senior Planner.
Hi.
What will be,
I just want to know, I was looking at it and it looks like a portion of it is going back to ag and the other portion is not, correct? Or is it the whole plat?
Mr. Chairman, the reversion will contemplate the entire parcels that are part of the Dateland Ranch subdivision. This is the location of the McFarland solar plant. It's being built.
Yes,
So
yeah,
then,
I've seen it. I went out and saw
The
it.
intent is to
Uh-huh.
bring it back to acreage as well as one parcel, removing all internal property lines to facilitate with setbacks on the internal development of the solar. This is the intent.
Yeah, I went out and looked at this property. Okay, thank you.
Would you like to make a motion? Or
I
are
move
there
that
any
we
other questions?
approve. No, I move that we approve consent agenda item number 10.
Second.
All in favor?
Well,
Mr., okay.
it's just a question. Is Palomas Road one of the last roads that, the county has before we go into
Yeah.
the Maricopa?
Technically, it's Hyder Road.
It's Hyder Road.
It's Hyder Road or Palomas Road, one of the two.
But it's like 70 miles out there.
Yeah, 64 to milepost 76, or 76E.
Just wanted to get a location.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Reyes, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11, do we,
The bomb squad.
I sent him a text.
and
It
did he
should be
answer?
coming.
What is the question? Maybe we can.
My question is, I just wanted to know that if this would, if they were going to include schools in this, or if the schools have a separate.
This is, from what I understand, I'm not speaking.
You
for
can,
Chris.
you can do it.
It's a county-wide type thing. The sheriff's office has a bomb squad right now, so
Mhm.
they're just wanting to combine it with the city.
So that they're all operating it together. So the city has their bomb squad and you have
I
your.
don't think the city has one. I think the county has been the one. Up, here comes the captain. I'll let him.
Hi, Captain.
So come up.
The bomb squad. We're on it.
Good morning.
Good morning. The bomb squad.
Doesn't make-
Yuma County is the only one with a bomb squad, correct?
We are the regional bomb squad for the Federal Bureau of Investigations. And so with that responsibility, we cover the entire southwest corner of the state.
Oh, okay. Now, and so you're working with the city of Yuma to try and coordinate this, or what exactly are we talking about?
Vice Chairman Lyons, Supervisor Pancrazzi, we approached the city of Yuma some time back and have been working with them to expand our capabilities. It's very difficult to cover all the call-outs with just us.
Yeah,
And so by adding them, it expands our capability.
got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, even for running down here.
Thank you.
Didn't even work up a sweat.
Do you have a motion?
Hold on.
I move that we approve consent agenda item number 11.
Oh, that's fine.
But
We have 2 seconds. All in favor?
Second and third.
Aye,
And second and third. Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Captain,
thank you.
appreciate
Oh, the
that.
question was with the school district, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the school district, yes.
I apologize.
The
You,
question that she had was referring to whether this was going to apply to the school districts, which.
do you do training with the school districts so that they understand what to do in case of,
So we have recently started a school resources officer program with the Gadsden School District. And as In that capacity, we do offer training for many angles. Bomb threats are one of the things that he will address with the administration of that school. But it's slightly different than what a bomb squad does. Bomb threats don't typically require the call out of certified bomb technicians, but any deputy will respond and clear the area at that point.
Okay. Thank you. That's what my.
Thank you for a second time.
Thanks. Okay.
Even before you, no, I'm just kidding.
Okay, we'll move on to the regular discussion calendar. Board will open each of the following items separately for discussion and action as appropriate. Item number 1, county administration. In accordance with the Arizona Revised Statute, approve and authorize the county administrator to sign telecommunications use and occupancy agreement, broadband agreement BB-005-T12-4970, and the addendum in-kind trade to said agreement with the Arizona Department of Transportation, providing right-of-way access for the county broadband network.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm happy to answer any questions. Specifically, what this is addressing is SR 195, mileposts 6 to 9. This is a mutual agreement for in-kind trade to access the right-of-way in that region for permitting. And ADOT is requesting 2 pair of fiber. I've broken down the actual individual cost of what that would associate to demonstrate the value-added proposition for the county and for the state. If you take the 2 pairs of fiber which are being requested, that runs about 19 cents per day, which is what's called a load cost. That's the total cost of installation, construction, development, getting it put into the ground. So it runs about 19 cents per linear foot. So we're talking 2 pair of fiber, 36 cents linear foot is $15,400. The total value would be about $5,852 to do that type of an installation. We're looking at an asset valuation of $36,293 for a 30-year right-of-way access in that mutual agreement of compensation.
Thank you.
You know, I try to understand that, but are we paying them or are we just doing an in-kind type situation?
It's just an in-kind trade. In-kind trade for the pair of fiber. I demonstrated what the cost was specifically if they were to install that themselves versus what the value proposition is for the land.
Are they going to get to use it?
They will.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's an in-kind trade. Okay, I got it. I'll make a motion. We go ahead and approve the item as presented.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you very much.
And I'd like to thank you, the process that you're going through to get all of our broadband going and in and all that, it's right on track, so thank you.
So sorry that we're asking questions after we made the motion and approved it, but I forgot to ask you, is that going to set a sort of a marker for everybody else to use it?
That actually is a right-of-way specific for ADOT, and they're utilizing it for any time they have construction signs, speed signage, safety equipment they need to have connected. That's essentially all it's going to be used for, from my understanding with.
So it's not going to
ADOT.
be like the benchmark that we use for everybody else to connect. Okay, hold on.
However, you could speak to the fact that ADOT does have a significant amount of dark fiber out there that has been integrated into this entire process. And so we will probably continue to interface with them like this.
No, I think I just wanted to know if this was sort of like an intergovernmental agreement that doesn't apply to the private sector getting access.
Correct.
to it.
Yes, sir.
So it's fine. Thank you.
And I'd like to just real quick, if I might just be able to make a quick comment. I was excited with Arizona Western College and the statement that was being made simply because the opportunities of everything they're developing really will stem from this middle mile broadband dark fiber. When we put this dark fiber in the ground, they can get connectivity out to the colleges. They'll also be able to benefit from improving their middle mile reach. Actually, what they're doing for reaching in dual enrollment, I think this would help improve that incentive as well. So again, it's a great recommendation, or it's a great reflection on what's being done in the county from the administration and the leadership here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public Health District, presentation by Chief Health Officer Diana Gomez, providing an update on the opioid settlement fund planning and program implementation process followed by discussion and possible action for the uses of the opioid settlement fund, and Gil Villegas will provide financial background information. It's so good to see you, Gil, and thank you for being here, Diana.
Good morning, Vice Chairman Lyons, members of the board. We wanted to give you a brief overview on where we are in this planning process. So as part of the Arizona One settlement, we were able to procure some funds that go to the county as well as the different municipalities within the county. So we want to just provide an overview so that we just allow the public to have some insight into what's happening so far. One of the first things that we wanted to share was the fact that this pot of money that we've had, we still have not distributed. We're working with the municipalities. We're still in the process of them decided whether they want to keep their share or they want to go ahead and defer that share to the county. So today and during the presentation, you will hear from me. You will hear from Ryan Butcher, who's our communications and community outreach specialist and has been doing a lot of work in opioid prevention. And then you will hear from Gil Villegas, our finance director, who will go into the specifics of the financial piece of it. So the opioid funds are to be approved for several purposes. One of them is treatment. So you could use it to fund treatment, to pay for opioid use disorder treatment, support people in treatment and recovery, connect people to those services, address the needs of those in the criminal justice system, or address pregnant postpartum women who are experiencing issues with opioid use and abuse. You could also use it for prevention. That's the second approved use. And that's for people to prevent the misuse of opioids, to prevent overdose deaths and other harm, and to provide overprescribing. We have databases in Arizona and other parts of the country that trigger those flags if people are going back and forth between requesting those services. And other strategies, and again, this could be partnering with first responders, leadership, coordination, like a needs assessment, or assessing services in the community to determine what's needed, training, specific training for NGOs that work with populations that are experiencing addiction, or for research. So the agreements are pretty, the agreement sets out what's allowed and what's not. So I'm always really bad at this. Mm-hmm. This is an overview of the fatal overdoses per year. So this is specific to our county, and you can see from 2018 to right now where we're at. And those are fatal overdoses. Our department has a...
I'm sorry, real quickly. Are you able to separate out the type of narcotic that was used in the overdose?
Ryan, are we able to, at that level? Ryan Butcher, see? I'm just going to have him stand up here with me.
So sorry.
No worries, Vice Chairman Lyons, members of the board, good morning. Ryan Butcher, Yuma County Health. So the way that we do for our overdoses is this data is actually from the medical examiner's office. They do have it broken down by toxicology. We don't have that represented here today, but for example, in our overdose fatality review board, when we look at those types of overdoses, we have the complete toxicology, so we can break it down by drug type to see what's the most prevalent or what was the contributing drug per se to see what contributed to that overdose. I think the next slide will break a little bit more into that as we go over.
So sorry to interrupt, Diana.
No, go ahead. I mean, and this is important because as Ryan's just going to stand up here with me. For this particular slide, it's a combination, right? And so a lot of times opioids are used in combination with other drugs.
Right.
So to further, go a little bit more in detail with your question, the things that you're looking to separate is a combination between, some of them it's alcohol, sometimes it's the use of muscle relaxants in combination, sleep aids like Ambien, or sometimes it's benzodiazepines, so like Xanax, that are used in combination. So again, that's the medical examiner would have that toxicology. This particular slide here goes into those that are attributed to fentanyl overdose. So you can see where fentanyl played.
And I think that's where I was going. Some of the data that the hospital shared with me, they had an average of like 19 a year that had kind of met that threshold with fentanyl.
Correct. And then, obviously, not all overdoses are going to make it to the emergency room. A lot of those are, dead on arrival, so they're not going to be transported. But, one of the interesting trends that we found is what we call polysubstance use. So, from a lot of the colleagues that I work with in the field, they said, substance use even 15, 20 years ago, the individuals are very loyal to the drug that they're using. So meth addicts use methamphetamine, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, we're seeing polysubstitutes. It means, in any toxicology report, it's extremely rare to find one drug associated with that overdose. It's usually a combination of 3, 4, 5, 6, even, upwards of that. That being said, fentanyl is the most prevalent that we're finding in there, along with methamphetamine. The levels of fentanyl that we're finding in these overdoses are extremely high, which is why they're typically, labeled as the drug that's contributing to that overdose. But I just want to make that distinction that there are multiple drugs found in these individuals, and fentanyl is the most prevalent. Usually, it's due to the illicit pills that are being distributed in the community.
Do you have a breakdown by age?
I don't have it on this slide. That being said, the leading age is 30 to 39, followed by the 20 to 29. And then it gets very close between the teenage population and some of the older populations.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a naloxone distribution program, and Ryan actually brought some so that you can see, and you can see how easy they are to use. In 2017, the director of the Arizona State Department of Health signed a standing order that said a Arizona licensed pharmacist could dispense naloxone to an individual. So again, it is meant to prevent an overdose. It reverses the effect of an opioid. There's 2 in here when you see it, and that's because sometimes it takes more than 1 dose. This is very easy to use. If you open it, you will see that you have the ability to you insert it. This particular one is nasal, so you just insert it in the nostril and you press. And you want to call, if you use this, you still want to call 911 because you want the person to get the medical, care that they need. In Arizona, we have ARS 36-2267, which actually says that any person can administer this, and as long as they did it in good faith, they're protected. So we actually have a program. We partner with schools in different places so that people can access it. As of September, pharmacies like Walgreens started making it available over the counter. You can buy it over the counter for a cost about $45 to $50, depending on where you purchase it. However, we're working to make sure it's available free of charge. The other thing that we're using, because we don't want the unintentional exposure, is we're distributing these pouches, and I believe you got them.
Yes, they're after that.
So you have these 2. These are the doTERRA pouches, and the doTERRA pouches, you can insert either a pill or liquid or the patches, and you add water, and it deactivates them. So again, there's a concerted effort to get these out and make sure that kids or other people don't get into medications that weren't prescribed for them. Again, and Ryan can speak to this, but he's had a very successful approach to being able to work with a lot of NGOs and community agencies in distributing this. And so,
And real quick before you start,
Sure.
I apologize. So I read a report last week about a couple of different first responders that responded to an emergency, but then immediately started to suffer the effects of fentanyl poisoning. And so will each unit be able to have this? I mean, what are we doing to make sure our first responders are taken care of?
yes, they have the ability to procure that actually and have it sent directly to them. I see, because of the accidental exposure that you just described, I think it's fair to say that at some point we see this being part of a standard first aid kit in most facilities. And yeah, they have their own process to procure this free of charge. We certainly are happy to partner with them as well to expand that. Their ADHS is piloting a program specifically to first responders so that when they go to a residence or somewhere where somebody's experiencing an overdose, they can actually leave a leave behind packet that includes this and includes other information about where to get help and treatment. So it's creating a framework that covers all those gaps. We don't want any gaps where somebody could just not have access to life-saving medication. But
I would, go ahead, Tony.
Question. I mean, this deals with someone that's still breathing, which sometimes you get there, it's a little too late. I mean, some of the first responders have said that, right? And it used to, you see too much in TV, obviously, but you see them being applied with a syringe. Is that normal, or is that something that a first responder could do? Because, I mean, this requires that a person be still breathing so you can push it through the nostrils and it gets into the system. But what happens when you come up to a situation where the emergency is the person's basically dead for, a minute or two, whatever time it took to get this, but they're not breathing anymore? How do you apply this?
So naloxone is actually used for individuals that have stopped breathing. So in the case of an opioid or fentanyl, it suppresses your breathing and it gets to the point where you essentially stop breathing. So they're unresponsive. So that person is not breathing and they're going to potentially die. The naloxone being administered through the nostrils into the stream basically goes in, knocks off the opioids onto the receptor sites, and that's where the naloxone locks on, essentially reversing the effects over the overdose. That being said, some, depending on, and this is where it's tricky with fentanyl, is, the pills being made can one pill can have, this much and the next pill could have that much. So the effects pill to pill are going to be different. The effects person to person are going to be different. So they may require more naloxone being administered. So that's kind of...
Call the 911.
Right, call 911. If you have naloxone, administer it. Each box has 2 doses, so you can administer a second dose a couple minutes later if they're not coming to. To answer your question in regards to the syringe, there's multiple types of naloxone out there. One very common is the syringe. Obviously, to a parent, somebody that's administering that and doesn't have a medical background, you can see the complications that would pose, which is why this is such a good tool, is because it's extremely easy to use. Anybody can use it, and it's very accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I guess you would have to, in some ways, be a little more adventurous if you're going to try the syringe, or at least have a little more medical knowledge of how to do it.
It's
So
a comfort level. An initial distribution, free distribution of naloxone and Narcan, it was little vials. It came with a syringe, and we found that people were hesitant sometimes because they were concerned about their ability to administer it. By doing something like this, that's so much simpler, just insert it in the nostril and depress, more people feel comfortable, more people are likely to act, because the syringe piece of it sometimes is a deterrent. People don't feel comfortable with that. And again, then there was that temperature and how do you gauge it, and when you're stressed out and nervous and you have to get the syringe. So it moved to, an easier to use, but that is still something that's available.
Okay.
Okay, so these are some of the locations where you can actually, if you're a member of the community, can get naloxone for free. And do you want to say something to it?
Yeah, so the targeted naloxone approaches that we do, a lot for the schools that you saw recently are more for kind of a first aid purpose, whereas these agencies, it's really about getting naloxone in the hands of people who use drugs, and more importantly, the families that may encounter that. So you can walk into any of these businesses, no questions asked, let them know that you need naloxone, and they'll give you a box of 2, and then you can go back as needed. We leave that up to the agencies about how much can be dispersed to a single person, but we don't want to kind of deter that, so we leave that up to the agencies. There's 3 here in the city of Yuma, and there's 1 in the city of San Luis, and we're continuing to kind of expand our reach and expand the agencies that can provide to the community.
How are you going to plan for, there could be some abuse, somebody getting them and selling them. Is there a track record of anybody? Is there a record? Not a track record, but is there a record of anybody picking up? I mean, if somebody picks up 5 of them in a week, and you figure something's going on, do they keep a record?
So those agencies, we really leave it up to them. There's a lot of stigma related with substance use in general. So we don't want to, those agencies, they're the experts in the field. They deal with the families and individuals. So we talk to them about targeted naloxone distribution in terms of, what's too much, what's too little. It's going to differ for every individual. That being said, they're kind of aware of how much they distribute and who they distribute to. And we keep a tallied number as far as who we distribute to, how many per month, so we can go back and tell you how many naloxone kits we distributed to each agency going back from the inception of the program. So,
are they aware that it's supposed to be free?
Excuse me?
Are they aware that it's supposed to be free?
Absolutely. That is one of the, that's what this program is for. No matter what it is, we have over-the-counter naloxone now, but cost is always going to be a prevention factor. So that's the beauty of this program, and what we express and really encourage to these facilities is that they make it free to the public.
Okay.
No, wait.
All right, I just wanted to say, in my mind, what I was looking forward to is having a machine that disposes them at school sites and different places. Now, this is a great start. I mean, it's a great program. As a matter of fact, I like it. I just want to see, because of that stigma, something that people can go to and simply say, I want one of those and get it. Now, it's going to be difficult because of the reasons I just gave you to control something like that. Because somebody could go out there and take 10, take 20 if there's nobody looking. So it's difficult because, people are drug addicted. They'll think of many ways to sustain that habit. And one of them could be simply that this would be a way to generate enough funds to continue. So it's difficult, but I mean, at some particular point in time, we've got to take that stigma part off of it and think about it as an addiction being a sickness, a health problem. And so anyway, I just wanted to make the point because I see that you guys have put together a program that, has 3 in Yuma. I'd like it to be in Somerton. I'd like it to be in places like that so that it's accessible to people everywhere. And I know that Campesinos is based out of Somerton, so they should be able to provide that in Somerton and just in San Luis.
And they may provide it there, but it's just as far as to the public, that's the one that they distribute through. And I just do want to comment on the fact that you mentioned the vending machine, so to speak. So there are, excuse me, my mouth's pretty dry. There's a vending machine now that individuals can go up to. It's a QR code. The QR code generates a short video that they watch on how to administer naloxone, and then they would be provided with a code that they could enter into that machine, and that machine limits that code to X amount of naloxone per week or per month, and that can be set by that agency that's providing oversight. So there's a lot of emerging things that are out there that we can look into and expand on.
I just want to make sure that everybody in the community knows that the health department is looking at this as a health issue, and it's not looking at it as any way to provide anyone a business opportunity or anything like that. We're looking at this as being a health issue that the county is stepping up to not resolve, because I think that's just a big word, but to simply address in the best way possible, which to me means that we got to get beyond the point where we blame these people and just simply get them to stay alive long enough to get treatment. The next phase of that is going to be getting treatment, which I think is going to be a lot more complicated than just dealing with an overdose. I think an overdose is something relatively simple to understand. People just don't, especially with fentanyl, which again, is so difficult to predict what strength it would be and what combination of drugs can trigger in your body a particular reaction. So just simply being able to keep those people alive, sometimes it's worth the effort as far as I'm concerned. Now, getting into treatment, getting into all those other different issues like disposing of drugs, I think this county is doing an excellent job in dealing with an issue that some people will avoid even dealing with.
And it is. It's about stigma, and we certainly don't want, how somebody gets to that point. There's a lot of reasons, and it is not our place to judge. We are here to help. We are here to provide a resource, just like any other, illness, and we're here to deal with the prevention piece, the education piece. But I do want to point out the distinction that even though we are going to be talking about the opioid funds, and Gil's going to go into that these are initiatives that we started we haven't used the opioid funds. So these are initiatives that we've deployed in the community partnerships that we've been working with prior to receiving these funds. And so moving forward, we are just looking to expand that. And one of the things that we, from a county perspective, at least that I want to do, is do a needs assessment that comprehensively looks at some of those things in more detail, like what you were talking about, Vice Chairman Lyons, and looking at some of those points. Also evaluating who's already doing that work in the community. We don't want to duplicate. So if it's one of those things where we start an initiative and we partner with other people, or we support existing initiatives, we want to make the most of these funds. And so with that in mind, we have these two initiatives that, again, were started. So the Overdose Data into Action Grant, which does the prevention overdose, and Ryan has really been doing a great job meeting with a lot of those entities. And then you have the Yuma County Anti-Drug Coalition that is made up of different partners throughout the different municipalities, and the city of Yuma is the lead for that under, I believe, right? Under
It's a
the mayor's-
drug-free communities grant.
So again, those are examples of stuff in the community. So when you looked at the agenda item, and Gil will discuss this in more detail, right now we have only, and we're again waiting for the final, confirmation from the different the city of Welton, the city of Somerton, the different municipalities within the county, saying whether they want to receive their distribution or if they want to just defer to the county. So I saw the figure and it said what the county's going to do with 12 million. That's the projection over 18 years. We don't have 12 million now. And so I just wanted to do that clear that up before Gil comes up here, because those are expectations.
Diana?
Yes, sir.
Before we move on, thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that data. And all of the comments. My wife's closest friend left my home, went home and found her 18-year-old son overdosing on fentanyl. He died 2 days later. She didn't even know what fentanyl was. So my concern is that our message with this overshadows the prevention portion of it. And I saw the educational component there, but too often it's a one and done type drug, and that's the billboards that I've seen. So I'm hoping that we will be extremely proactive on that front. 18-year-old, somebody said it was some other type of drug, but it was a counterfeit laced with fentanyl, and that was it.
You don't know, and the prevention piece is definitely something we want to focus on. Just sitting in some of these trainings and listening to stuff from the time when my children were younger to now, the way things have changed and the ease of being able to access some of these drugs. It's a lot easier to access some of these drugs than it is to access alcohol. And so kids have found all sorts of ingenious ways, or again, accidental exposure or something's laced. So again, there goes the education piece. So we're certainly really committed to doing something, specific to the parents, to the general. And again, one of the things with this medication is that if you err on the side of caution and administer it, it won't have a counter effect. It won't affect anything else. So it's okay to do it and err on the side of caution. But the education piece, like you pointed out, preventing, we want to get to the point where we prevent something from happening and where people know how easy it is for something like that to happen in a split second. So Gil is going to come up and talk a little bit about the finances, and then I'll be happy to come back up here and talk a little bit more.
Mr. Chairman, too, like I said, this works great, but I really want to push the education. Because you're going to get kids, if kids can get access to this, they're going to think, well, I can take the fentanyl down, somebody here with me.
Yeah.
They've got this, they'll bring me back out of it, and there's no guarantee.
And that's the point. You don't know what you're dealing with. You never know what you're dealing with. You don't know the combination. You don't know. And I think that's the education and the billboards that have been coming out. Some of this stuff looks like candy. Some of this stuff looks very...
The rainbow fentanyl.
It's so hard to tell. You can't visually tell. You can't, and you don't know what you're getting. So no, I mean, it's meant to help and prevent in the case it happens, but not, not in that reference.
Yeah.
It's not a solution. If I could just add one thing, and to your point, Chairman Simmons and Vice Chairman Lyons, fentanyl nowadays is extremely cheap to get. Kids are using social media platforms to have it delivered to them.
Yep.
I mean, you talk about ease of use, and it is extremely easy to get. The other scary, and I don't quote too many statistics, but the DEA and HIDTA, which is a high intensity drug trafficking area, has determined that of 6 of every 10 illicit fentanyl pills found have a lethal dose. And so when you take all the things in combination, you can see why it's so scary.
And 50% of the fentanyl coming across the border is coming across in Arizona.
Yes. And
we have a disproportionately high number of people that are affected by that. Thank you. Sorry. The nation is 1 in 1,000, and in Yuma County, we have 19 per 100,000.
Gary. Good morning, Vice Chairman, members of the board. Gil Villegas, I'm the Chief Financial Officer. I've been working in collaboration with the County Attorney's Office and the Health Department, Health District. So we properly account for these funds that we have been receiving. We have a very strict reporting requirement that we need to make sure that we are in compliance with, because we want to make sure that all the funds are properly used. During our conversations internally or with the other participant agents, we thought it was proper for us to go over the finances, the numbers, because there might be a misconception there that we're getting millions and millions of dollars and Yuma County is not. The settlement, yes, it talks about the billions, the national-wide settlement billions, and there is a lot of money to be distributed. But what I wanted to do this time, I just want to provide you with the up-to-date information that we have, the funds that we have received. Like Diana said, we have not distributed those funds. So for educational purposes for the board and the rest of the constituents. So the presentation should be in your package. If you don't have it, let me know. I have printed extra copies. First of all, a little bit of a background, what happened. Everybody, I think, is aware with the One Arizona agreement that was done by the Arizona Attorney General. This was done back in August 2021, and they pretty much did the framework, what's going to happen with this national opioid settlement. They put together a MOU, a memorandum of understanding, with all the counties, with all the participating entities, and they pretty much set the rules, how we're going to receive these funds and how we're going to distribute them. One of the things that I want to draw your attention to is one of the requirements that they have is that whatever the allocation was for Arizona, for the state of Arizona, out of this national settlement, 56% of the total settlement will go to the local governments, the participating entities. 44% will stay with the state for their programs, whatever they do. So whatever is coming to Arizona is already been split between the state and local governments. Again, funds must be spent in accordance with approved national recognized strategies. We have very strict reporting requirements. Right now, it's mostly finance, but we are afraid that in the future, it's going to be mostly about how you use it, where you use it, things like that. And of course, we want to be in compliance so we don't compromise the funds. One of the rules also was that the counties are to distribute the funds to all local, to the county amongst the participant cities and towns. So we are receiving the money. Everything is coming to Yuma County, and then us, is our responsibility to send it to them if they choose to, if they require for them to get that allocation. There's flexibility in that MOU where local governments can pool with the county so we can better utilize those funds. So out of that one Arizona plan, they took different factors and they came to agreement for each one of the regions or each one of the counties, how much was going to be the distribution for Yuma County. As you can see, it was a 2.008%. Of the 56% that Arizona is getting, 2.08% is going to Yuma County. Out of that, also, we have another distribution chart that was provided with them. Yuma County gets 66.03%, City of Yuma 26.32%, San Luis, Somerton, and Walton list a percentage of the allocation. So I went ahead and did a little research. I got into the National Opioid Settlement webpage, and as of July, there have not been any changes to this. Those are the settlements that we have, or that they have in line to be settled, per se. The first three are the only ones that we know they're done, and we're starting to receive funds for those three. The ones highlighted in blue, they're still pending litigation. I think some of them is because of bankruptcy. They have not completed the settlement agreement. I want to draw your attention to the column to the right, years to pay out. This is not going to come in one-time payment to us, to anybody. Each one of them has a different distribution schedule, per se. 18 years, 10 years, 8 years, 13 years. So it's going to be a spread up to 18 years for all the monies that we receive. If everything is to be settled according to the national settlement agreement that is out there, we're talking about $1.1 billion going to the state. 44% will stay with the state, like we said, and 56% to the local governments, amounting to 638 million plus, 638.8 million. The 2.00% Yuma County will equate to 12 million point eight. Once again, I want to emphasize those are just estimates, which are pending on those settlements that we're going to have. Doing a quick calculation based on the One Arizona agreement, these are the estimate totals that we will receive through the spread of up to 18 years. Yuma County, $8.5 million. City of Yuma, 3.4. San Luis, 615,000. Somerton, 287, and Welton, $78,000. As of today, we have set up a different fund just to take care of these funds. And when we are ready, we're going to distribute them if so required. We have received $844,000, a little over of that. Those are the payments since last year in 2022, we have received those payments. Again, as the old settlements settle, then I guess we're going to receive additional funding. What's for the future? What's what we want to do? Well, since we haven't distributed any money, we saw the need for us to create individual agreements with all the participating entities. Right now, San Luis, Somerton, Welton, and the City of Yuma. Why yearly agreements? Because every year we want to give them the opportunity for them to opt in or opt out from Yuma County. If they want to leave the funds, we'll take care of the reporting requirements for them. Then every year they will let us know. We have scheduled those agreements to be early in the calendar year, around January 15, so that the entities, they have an opportunity to properly budget for those. For the funds that we have currently received, the 844 and whatever we're going to receive for the rest of the fiscal year, we're asking the participating entities to send us an agreement or let us know whether they are going to opt in or opt out of Yuma County. We're going to need that by December 1st, so that way it will trigger in my office when I can start making the distributions to all those entities that decided to keep their money. And from now on, every time, as soon as I receive the funds, within 30 days, those funds are going to be distributed to those entities. So that was a quick roundout on the numbers that we have. I don't know if there are any questions from the board for us, but like I said, we have set up a fund specifically for this receipts, and once we get notifications from the other entities, either we're going to start distributing the funds or we're going to keep them. All the funds are at the discretion of the health district. They are the ones that are going to tell us how to use the funds, and they're going to be the ones that have access to those funds as well. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Villegas. Any questions from any supervisors? Diana?
So the overview that we provided earlier was just because we haven't distributed the money, we just wanted to make clear the fact that we have had activities and we will continue to have activities. This is obviously a much larger conversation, and going back to the prevention piece, that's definitely first and foremost. We want to be able to prevent those, and this allows for a lot of flexibility, engaging those NGOs and even faith-based communities in helping and assisting in that education piece. But again, once we get all the notifications formally from the different entities saying that they want to either take their distribution or opt, that gives us an idea. Our preliminary stage right now, again, is that needs assessment and to deploy the prevention strategy piece, the education piece, which are things that we're doing, but we'll have the opportunity to do in a greater scope moving forward. And again, we would like to come back at a different point and provide different options so that you can look at where we're at in the different options presented. And again, the results of that needs assessment so that it can provide a brighter picture to the community. This is a very important community issue. We want to be transparent. We want people to have a voice. And when we do that needs assessment, also, we not only want to keep in mind those first responders and those people in the front lines that are doing the work. We want to hear from the people that are in recovery. We want to hear from those parents. We want to know what their concerns are. We want to know what would help them, because these are the strategies that we're developing, and it's important that we have that input as well.
And how will you reach out to parents? How will you do that?
So we're going to work with a consultant to help us, and we have a presence in most schools, so we could do it independently. But we feel that it would be more expedited if we work with. We're looking at university partnership. And having them do some of the work for us. We can already survey the stakeholders. It's that community input from the parents, and that's where we need the assistance from, support and partnerships with either the NGOs or the schools or the faith-based communities that are interested in being part of this work. Because again, everybody is doing important work, and we either want to amplify those efforts, partner, to complement those efforts, but we don't want to duplicate a service that's already being provided.
Will you, as you organize, please advise us of those
Yes.
meetings specifically, and then the outreach on how we might be able to further assist you and maybe deconflict with some of the other agencies out there?
I have a question. How low grade-wise are you going?
So, I mean, right now, what you're already working with? Middle school?
That's been our youngest casualty, right?
Right, and a lot of this, the other thing that we're really focused on is the behavioral health piece of this. So there's a whole other behavioral piece that we're working on. Again, we try to keep it brief, and that's why it's not a long, lengthy presentation. We just wanted to provide an overview. But we're expanding the work that we do in the behavioral health and prevention area, and this will help fund some of that work that we normally would not be able to do because we didn't have dedicated. It's allowed under this initiative. So again, dealing with those feelings of isolation, the stress, the anxiety, and a lot of that stuff that we saw, particularly in that middle school to high school to early community college, university students, we want to really get out there and again, either deploy something that's evidence-based and innovative, or expand something that's already happening.
Diana?
Yes, sir.
Do you think that we might be able to, because of a couple of experiences where I've had to work with families that have had this type of a challenge through the faith-based effort, but there wasn't really any type of counseling here in Yuma. We had to send them to Phoenix. Can we augment through behavioral health some type of
There's an option.
Okay.
There's an option to partner, again, with the advantages of telehealth and partnering to do more behavioral health interventions. We're working on a secondary strategy, specifically strategically related to behavioral health that I'm looking forward to coming and presenting to the board that would help augment that and explain that in more detail. So definitely.
Have you already formed a task force? I mean, I know that this has been ongoing and you've been thinking about it for a long time, and now we're starting to see those funds, but what type of effort do you have focused on at the health department?
We, right now, Ryan has been working in the community, but formally, specific to these funds, we wanted to do a broader stakeholder coalition because it gives us a higher level of flexibility, and we want to be inclusive. We want to make sure that access, depending on where you live, is not an issue, and again, the stigma related to that, we want to really emphasize the fact that this is an important community issue and that there's lots of reasons for why we are where we're at. And we certainly don't want to be judgmental, and we want people to feel comfortable coming forward and having that dialogue with us. So again, dealing with the stigma and inviting those invitations as we move forward with these funds, we want people to have a say in how those funds are used.
So my question, I know that Mara is listening, and I know that there are people listening at home. If they want to be involved or be part of that stakeholder, if they are a parent who wants to give back, who have suffered a loss, how would they go about being involved?
And they can reach out to Ryan primarily or to me, and we will start collecting that information. And thank you for mentioning our media partners, because they were going to be they've been instrumental in highlighting some of these efforts that different community partners or we have done. But moving forward, the different modalities and social media is very important. So all those media partners are going to be a vital part of our strategy because we are doubling up where we go out to have these presentations and these educations, but also making sure that they're available in Spanish and making sure that a lot of this material is available in both English and Spanish. Keeping in mind that we will need to go out to the communities. We don't want people to have to come to us or ask questions. But is there anything else that you think would be?
Sure, yeah, just for the immediate, if there are any parents or businesses or anybody that's just interested in doing a little bit more, the Yuma County Anti-Drug Coalition, we meet bi-monthly. I'm the co-chair for that, and that's something that we've been working in conjunction with the City of Yuma and the Mayor's Office through their Drug Free Community Grant. And that's really where we've seen, you know, a lot of the, you know, subject matter experts and a lot of the things, and really looking at what's being done in Yuma, not duplicating efforts. And that's really why we want to kind of expand and do that needs assessment with those individuals, because they're really the people that have been doing this for years and years. But to your point, if somebody wants to get involved, they can reach out to myself or the Yuma County Anti-Drug Coalition, and we can follow up with them.
Thank you. Desiree, will you make sure we have that contact information to all the supervisors? Thank you very much. That's a great presentation. Thank you, Gil, for diving into that and weeding out the numbers that you do so well. Okay.
There's no need for motion in this one.
Nothing, because it's already appropriated, right? And designated. Okay, thank you. Development Services Planning Division, discussion concerning criteria for extending the notification area beyond 300 feet, followed by possible action to adopt the mailed notification radius extension policy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maggie Castro, Planning and Zoning Director. So included in your packet is the proposed mail notification radius extension policy. We took some of what's existing already and then added on based on input that we received from other jurisdictions as to what they use to extend the radius notification for certain cases. So the policy includes the distance that the radius will be extended, and also specific uses that will trigger extension of the notification policy. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this back in July 25th, and recommended approval, and staff is ready to entertain any questions.
Vice Chair, a couple of things about this. I think the gentleman that was here last time asking for us to broaden the reach of some of these announcements was thinking more on lines of the public in general, I think. I mean, the 300 feet and then moving to a half mile, which is what I read here, on a not on a case-by-case basis. That's the policy. We'll change that. You will extend it to more people around the area. But I think that what brought this forward was this case, the toxic waste disposal case, and it was more like, what do you let the public, would you let the public know when something like this is happening? This will extend the policy to more people around the site, which is fine. But I would have liked some sort of we do that. Most people don't notice that we publish most of this stuff anyway in the newspaper. But I think a more general kind of notice would have been, or would be to me, more an appropriate response to that kind of concern, as opposed to the area around the property, which now is limited to if the zoning change is small, then the area remains 300 square feet. If it's bigger, then the area expands. If it's commercial, if it's more than 8 acres, there's a criteria that would be followed. But I think at the end of the day, what people were talking about, people that came and complained about the notice process, we're talking about more in a general sense, not so much in the property around the site sense. I don't know how we deal with that other than in a case-by-case basis. When it gets controversial, we sort of go to the city hall and have the meetings there, so we allow more people in. We try as much as possible to be as transparent as possible. We're a statute-driven organization, so it's tough to do anything that isn't statute-driven without getting into some legal concerns about gift causes and things like that come into play all the time. So I don't have a problem with the policy. I think it's a good policy to have. The bigger the radius where we tell people what's happening, the better off we'll be in terms of being able to justify, and providing announcements of what's happening to the neighborhood, so the neighborhood's aware. And I mean the neighborhood, not the 300 square feet neighborhood, but the wider neighborhood, the radius, the bigger radius. So I have no problem with the policy, but I think at some particular point in time, it's more, how do we let people know when something is happening that has, we were surprised that Gail wasn't here this morning because, we're just so used to her being sort of like our eyes on the ground. So it's kind of like, I'm okay with that, like 3/4 of the way, but we sort of needed like another quarter that included more like a public notice type of thing to the general public. When a case is large enough, and we've got some cases that are large enough, like we got some solar cases that are quite huge, where we may need to activate some sort of an announcement process that, it's a.
Or bomb squad.
Well, or the bomb squad. No, like a bomb squad. But no, I like I said, I like the policy, establishes the policy. The change establishes the policy. The policy is to broaden the reach of our announcements about what's happening in the neighborhood. But I think it's missing that later piece, that if a case is large enough, it should be publicly announced to the general public, so the general public gets a chance to, oh, I'm sorry. Did you have that one?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So the changes to the policy were triggered by a couple cases. One was the hazardous waste facility. Another one was the case out in the foothills for the Granite Yuma LLC request. And then also the solar facility out in Hyder. So this policy addresses some of those concerns that were brought up. Not every case will trigger expansion of the notification radius, but part of the policy is other notification, which will utilize the county's social media sites to notify the general public about some of these cases that may have a broader impact on the community.
I get it, and that's the way a lot of people find out stuff. But in cases like the higher, it may be more, I may be looking more like, okay, what do we do in terms of publishing it in the paper, in the newspaper, or I don't know.
Social media, anything.
Well, social media.
Out at the Chevron station or at the gas, a small handout that.
That's gonna be, like, that's what concerns me.
All right.
No, it's fine, but that's what concerns me. Where do you get to that point where it becomes so controversial that essentially people are gonna come and say, well, we didn't know because you didn't do this? It's always going to be there. So what we're trying to do is minimize the chances of that happening by widening our radius of notices, which is a step in the right direction. But I don't know if we could ever get to a situation where we announce something so openly, so publicly, that we get to cover people's concerns. And I think some people's concerns, it's more, how do you find out about a case like this? And I think that we're dealing with some of it by the surrounding area and by covering it on social media. The next step might be, if a case is large enough, controversial enough, we may have to go old school and sort of provide a flyer or do something that I think we do in social media. We do that. That's easy to do, I think. So we're going to I think that this is going to force us to use more social media, to use more of those avenues that are available to us with that. We're trying to get away from publishing everything in the newspaper, Myra, if you're listening to this. And now we're looking at how we make it more available to the public. So
My concern is that out in East County and out in the outer layer, they don't have the internet connections that they should, but they haven't gotten it.
Lynn, 1 second. Ian's been wanting to lean into this for a while, just to talk about how we approach it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to mention that our communications director, Arlene Galavis, is working on this very issue on how to get the word out to as many people. I do want to caution that the county needs to be careful about selecting specific issues to publicize. That's really not where we're at. But if something triggers sufficient attention that merits a venue change or something, then of course we want to get the word out about that. But in general, our duty is to make sure people are aware what's on the agenda as a whole. And she's working on different ways to get that message out there.
There's a couple of things that I'm concerned about. It's like we've got an issue coming up before the board on that rezoning next to Antelope Mountain. The 300-foot doesn't come close to encompassing the residential area that's going to be affected. So the smaller communities, I guess, is what I'm saying, look at notifying a little more. Let's see, what's in the North Shore of Martinez Lake. Whenever there's a zoning change out there, Usually it's just maybe one or two homes that are notified, but it affects the entire community. Antelope's one. We need to look at it, what is affecting, is it just a couple of homes or is it an entire smaller community? Not necessarily the large ones, but a small community.
When I look at your research, when I look at what other counties are doing and what they're allowed to do, they do look at it case by case. And they do see, they do see the difference. Some of them don't. Some of them have a policy, some of them don't. But the ones that don't have a policy will probably tell you they look at a case by case basis, which in this particular case, in the case of Martinez Lake, advising people to, even if it's one property that's going to change zoning, or it's going to allow a separate dwelling, that's going to impact the community in ways. The ripple effect is what probably some of those people are concerned with more than the one case that's being discussed. So while I concur that there should be some research done by our communications director in regards to how can we broaden the communication base, I think getting into a case-by-case situation is what we do. And to me, the supervisor that, for example, is Gata or South County or the middle of Yuma, whatever, I think that those supervisors do have a sort of a duty to expand and to broaden it. And I wouldn't want to limit that. As a matter of fact, I would like to have another addition that this case will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis and determined by the communication director, or something that allows us to do that without getting into a problem about it being a case-by-case basis, because what's important in Martinez Lake may not be as important in San Luis. What's important in San Luis may not be as important as what's happening in Dayland. What's happening in the middle of Yuma may not be as important as what's happening someplace else. So to me, flexibility is the key here. And having the flexibility to, having a policy that expands the notices, it's great. I go with that. Finish it up by the statement that says, this radius notification shall be dealt with on a case by case by the communications director, allows you to address issues like that. If a supervisor comes up, I just don't want it to be limited. The notices, the intent of furthering notice, the intent of being clear with the public, was what what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what started to be covered, and I think it's fine. I think it's fine that we broaden the notices. I think it's fine that we can do this through social media, but whether it's permissive enough to allow the city manager, the county manager, or the supervisor to come in and say, hey, look, I think we need more notices on this one. I think it's going to impact my community in ways we haven't discussed. And I know it happens in Hyder, or it happens in the foothills, or it happened in an incorporated area. It's probably important to that unincorporated area, but if it's more important than to those people surrounding that, it's important to the whole community. So finding a way to do that, I think, is a challenge, but this is a good start. I like it.
I'd also like to look at making bigger signs. Those little 3x3s that nobody can see when they drive by
On a case by case basis.
is a problem to me.
That's a separate agenda item. So
Yeah.
I know it is, but okay.
At this point, I will have another bullet point under other notification, that expansion of the notification radius will be determined on a case-by-case basis.
I know.
I did reach out to Supervisor Simmons here on a couple cases recently as far as expanding the notification area, and it was determined that there was a desire to extend the notification radius to half a mile. But that's, like I said, it's something that I can add to this policy and
Well,
implement it.
I give an example, but I read one here that says, like a marijuana facility, dispensing facility. I mean, it's something that impacts the community in general, not just the area where it happens. And it's a policy decision that requires a lot more, I think, public participation in the process. Again, I would be more than willing to make the motion to approve the new policy, because I think it improves on the old policy a lot, and keep striving to get to that point where we become very clear about there's nothing hidden about county government. If you want to find out, you can look, you can find it, and if not, we'll make sure you see it. Now, regarding those signs, that you put up there, I'm sure they're statutory driven, the size of the sign, so I'm sure that if we went to.
Separate item,
So I'm sure we'll get to it at some point.
Well,
Yes, we will.
it's about broadening communication.
Mr. Chairman, and is your motion including the additional bullet point?
Yeah, I think the motion includes
Would you
everything
please
that's
state
presented.
your motion, Tony?
The motion will be to approve the item as presented, including those further notifications. If you're okay with legal, I mean, legal, they need.
Would you like to read those into the record?
No.
There was one bullet point that I added. Expansion of the notification radius will be determined on a case-by-case basis.
Which could have covered everything else, but, at least we have a policy.
We have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We're going to recess until 11 o'clock.
Thank you.
Getting going.
As long as we have, no, it's 11 o'clock and we have legal here, so let's go.
do it.
One out of two ain't bad.
He's coming, he's coming.
There's the other one. Now we're at
We're gonna get started with that.
60% representation.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Very exact.
Trying to sneak in. but
Okay.
couldn't do it. So what's the first one? It was on expedited.
I look like
Okay, and I was advised that we had one person that wanted to speak on item number 3, which without my glasses looked like number 5, so I wanted to apologize. And they were trying to see if that person was here.
Who is it?
What, is it the announcement thing?
Charlene Riley, I think that she walked out and she was
she
trying to
said
bring
they
her
didn't
back
sit in the
in.
front? No, no, there she is. Voter registration, man?
No, the last
No, the-
item that we just.
The last one on the
300
notification.
The 300 foot.
Was it? I thought the third item was voter registration month, and then the fourth item was human resources, and the fifth item was.
Well, that specific item that we just covered,
was the 300-foot radius.
the 300 foot radius.
Yep.
We'll give it a second.
She wasn't here? She wasn't here? Well, we keep the public meeting open, so.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
kept the public open, so
If she's here.
everybody gets their say. Is she here? Okay.
And actually, she said that she'll address it when the special use permit
Comes
item
up?
comes up.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, very good. We will continue then. So we will open up the planning and zoning agenda. Planning and zoning agenda, the full legal descriptions of property sites for all rezoning cases are available for public review at the Yuma County Board of Supervisors office. We'll open up the expedited rezoning calendar as well. These items will be opened as a group for public hearings and acted upon by one motion to adopt a recommendation of Planning and Zoning Commission, except for any item that is removed by a board member for separate consideration. That item will be discussed and acted upon separately following action on expedited items. And we have 2 items. What is the pleasure of the board?
I'll go ahead and make a motion, we consider them expedited and deal with them at the same time.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
these are expedited, they have to be
Yeah, they have
open
to
for
be
public
public
hearing.
hearing.
Okay, all right. We'll open it up for public hearing. Public hearing is open. Do we have anybody that wants to address?
This is a special, oh, no,
I don't have any call cards on those.
So if nobody wants to.
Do I need to say it 3 times, Bill? All right. It is closed. And we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now, we will open up the full presentation. For rezoning, regular public hearing items, staff will make a full presentation on each of the following items, followed by separate discussion, public hearing, or action for the Board of Supervisors. We do have speaker forms, but they are for items number 5. And we will start it off with item number 1.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Javier Barraza, Senior Planner, presenting text amending case 2302. This is the intent is to amend the Yuma County zoning ordinance, section 623.0, dark sky overlay district, with the aim of eliminating the maximum lumen cap tied to acreage for new residential development within the dark sky overlay district. The dark sky overlay district was adopted by the board on March 9, 2020. And the intent was to minimize the adverse man-made light pollution effect on sky glow, glare, and light trespass. After the adoption, staff received comments from the construction industry stating that DSOD was too restrictive. After meeting with several members of the construction industry, staff compared Yuma County's DSOD requirements to other 14 counties in Arizona, had similar codes, and the findings were that ours was more restrictive. The proposed changes are a combination of dark sky regulation by other communities and are intended to alleviate the current restrictiveness of our dark sky overlay district. In conversations by phone and or email with representatives of those communities surveyed, they expressed their effectiveness of the adopted dark sky lighting regulations. They indicated they have the support of that community. On May 17, 2023 and June 8, 2023, the Yuma County Planning and Zoning Division staff met with stakeholders in the electrical and construction industry. We took their input on it and came out with an effective, to improve and refine the text amendment to ensure it is effective and protect the night sky and reducing light pollution. And the proposed changes are shown below. Text that is proposed to be deleted is a strike-through font, and text that is proposed to be added is in bold font. Will the chairman would like to hear every item or just go and?
What's the will of the board?
I want every item, please.
Okay, on this slide, we deleted on section 623.07 applicability, deleted paragraph C. On section 623.10 general requirements, paragraph A, light trespass and glare, the original paragraph was deleted and now it's been replaced with outdoor lighting fixtures shall be sufficiently shielded and aimed such that spillage of light onto adjacent properties is minimized and glare from the light emitting and or reflecting parts of a luminaire is not visible from any adjacent property. There shall be no light trespass onto adjacent residential properties. Paragraph 2 is deleted.
How do you minimize light trespass?
There you go. That's what I was going to say.
That's what we're getting with the proposal is to use more shielding. Shielding.
Correct
So it's just-
Shall be
But you're still not
sufficiently
eliminating
shielded.
the bleed.
Yeah.
There will
Outdoor
see
lighting.
some, the source of it, but
So
it
then
won't be.
do we subject ourselves to lawsuits because we've done this, because somebody has complained about light? I mean, where?
We will receive with the, currently, if there's a new development. And,
Does this apply to anything?
For new
existing?
development, yeah,
Does
after it was
apply to
adopted.
anything- But does it apply to anything existing?
There should be like, we already have an existing provision in the exterior lighting. And there's some spillage, yeah, we will take zoning complaints on that and we will investigate them. If there's, let's say, a light fixture, light source being placed upwards and it just illuminates outwards onto somebody else's property, we will address that through that.
So when you say that, the things that come to my mind are areas such as Band Trailer Park or other rural areas where we have high theft or high crime, where we need additional light in order to secure properties. And so hampering the ability to illuminate these areas. Maggie, did you want to say something?
It was just a comment.
This is actually though
A
less.
whisper. Now you walk up.
This is actually less restrictive than the current ordinance we have.
Okay.
Correct.
And may I add?
But it just said there shall be no light trespass. That's pretty bold. Where it says there shall be no light trespass onto adjacent residential properties, that's pretty bold.
That's a residential property.
Because we have lots of commercial areas with adjacent residential properties.
But this is only from Foothills Boulevard
East.
east. This
We
isn't
still
all
have
of
that.
us. This doesn't apply to the valley or any place
Mr.
else here in
Reyes?
the city of
A
Yuma.
question, who puts up the lighting? I mean, is it the subdivision or is it APS or who puts up the lighting? Because I mean, who puts up the lighting to me?
Mr. Chairman, it'll be, in case of commercial industrial projects, it will be the developer. And residential also will be the owner of the property.
Okay, because
We're dealing with private property.
private property.
Yes, any new development. In this particular case, the pushback was from the residential because acreage, currently in the dark sky overlay district, any new development in residential areas as well as commercial, but we're gonna focus on residential. The output allowed is capped by acreage. Let's say you have a 6,000, and I can go to the example that I have to show
Sure,
you.
let's do that.
Way at the end.
Okay.
Let's say this is a regular building permit. You will see the red dots. Those are new proposed light. This is east of Foothills Boulevard. This is a regular 6,000, 7,000, square feet lot size. In this case, it's 6,000. So if you compare to acreage, you got 0.59. Under the current dark sky overlay district is anything less than 1 acre, you need 10,000 lumens. So these particular one will be allowed only to have 1,590 lumen. And if you convert that to watts, you can have, she's proposing 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can only have 6 light bulbs of 25 watts on the new development. And that's the pushback we receive. With the new one, it'll be based on lumen output, the light bulb. If it's certain lumens, 1,250 and more, it has to be fully shielded.
Yeah.
And if it's less, then it could be partially shielded. And if we go how much each, for instance, this value kind of matches a 75 watt. If we go with this is 100 watt. If they were to use one light fixture and maybe 2 more of 25 watt, they can keep the lumen cap, less than what is required. They have to meet that. With a fully shielded approach, it's like they can have more lights. Correct. They can have the 6 with up to, you have to be fully shielded if you more than this, partially shielded if you less.
Yes.
Some requirements will still be in place, like trespass. And this, going back to the example, currently, if you are 25 feet away from the property line on the side, it has to be fully shielded, no matter what. So, yes, Mr. Chairman.
What happened when you're not in the dark sky overlay district? If you're in the
We will apply the exterior lighting section.
The section,
the regular section.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
So if you want to get away from the controversy over this, you just simply have to get away from the dark sky ordinance. Now, that's going to bring in people complaining about too much light, which is what this is supposed to deal with. If the dark sky ordinance is because east of the foothills, people are complaining that there's too much light and the sky doesn't look as good.
So
So
basically, so basically you're going from the number of wattage. If you increase the wattage, you increase the shielding.
Correct.
Correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
That's it. So you're still going to have the same dark sky, but you're going to provide more shielding so the light goes straight down or in the area that you have. So all you're doing is increasing the shielding, huh?
Seepage, light seepage is very normal, and that in outlying areas, the more light you have goes
further.
Well, that's, so we've got this, this internal struggle between us trying to, light
back
something
in
up.
March or April, I think it was, we met with several contractors. I was part of that, talking to them, and they were expressing their concerns. That's kind of where this all came from, was to try to adjust it to where it fits a little better, and along with the other counties that have it.
Darren, since this primarily affects your area, 100% affects your area, what are those discussions? Do you think this is more permissive? Or less?
I think it's more permitted. It works well with the contractors are happy with the changes, yet it still keeps that.
Because you've got
dark skies.
You've got some commercial that abuts residential.
Okay.
And so how will you address that if they are concerned about crime? Because we have had those.
Well, if it's residential or even commercial, it's the shielding that's keeping. It's not taking away the light down below. It's just keeping it from going up into the night sky.
Okay.
Dark sky.
Right. Mr. Chairman, the dark sky overlay district applies to everything east of Foothills Boulevard or on the east side of Foothills Boulevard, and then also the Martinez Lake area. The reason for the proposed changes is that staff received complaints from some developers out in the Foothills area that the current regulations were overly restrictive. For example, on the residential lot, under the current regulations, they're pretty much limited to a couple of light bulbs of, I think, 80 watts or something like that.
Okay.
Because the lumen cap on a 7,000 square foot lot is 1,500 and almost close to 1,600 lumens. So they felt that that was limited as far as lighting for safety purposes. So the new regulations will allow higher wattage or higher lumens provided that the light fixtures are fully shielded.
Okay.
So that's the difference in the changes.
So my question is, are the contractors or developers in line with this? Because, I mean, it's cost issue. I mean, obviously those lights are more expensive.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we did speak with a designer, a couple designers, a couple contractors, and they expressed support of the changes that are moving forward. And we did run the changes through them before they went to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay. I would say, Mr. Vice Chairman, that essentially what we're trying to do is accommodate, some of the cost factors in there. At the same time, we try to keep it as safe as possible and as dark as possible.
Thank you.
Working with everyone.
Supervisor Simmons, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion.
Well, we need to open up the public hearing. Sorry, I apologize. Bill's giving me that look and
Okay, so.
nobody wants to come forward. We'll close the public hearing. Supervisor?
I'll make a motion that we approve text amendment case number 23-02, text amendment to the Yuma County zoning ordinance.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Javier? Dale.
Thank gracias. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mexican in me.
That's good. That's because I evoked it, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you persuade me.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board. Javier Barraza, Senior Planner, presenting special use permit case number 2307. This is a request for a special use permit per section 602.03E of the Yuma County zoning ordinance to allow an accessory dwelling unit on a parcel 2.5 gross acres in size, zone suburban ranch 2-acre minimum. The project site is located in the Yuma Mesa planning area at 17187 South Avenue B and a half in Somerton, Arizona. The intent is to build a site-built home as an accessory dwelling unit for family members. This is the vicinity and zoning map showing the subject parcel, parcel 7, crosshatched and highlighted in red. Property is accessed along Avenue B and a half on the west. There's a principal dwelling currently being built. Parcel 1 to the north is improved with site built, zone SR2. Parcel 6 and parcel 007 on the west are zone properties RA10. These parcels were created with a variance. Parcel 6 is improved with a site built and accessory structures, and parcel 7, south of the previous parcel, is improved with a manufactured home. Parcel 11, 8, 9, 10, and 2 are properties improved with site-built dwellings. Some of them are also in ag. This is an aerial view showing the subject parcel outlined in red. Avenue B and a half is a paved road. This is the site plan provided by the applicant. Outlined in red and dash is the subject parcel. Outlined in red is the existing dwelling being built, about to be done. And on the northern portion, highlighted in yellow, is the proposed accessory dwelling unit for a family member. This is a view looking south at Avenue B and a half. Now looking east at the subject parcel from the west. Looking northeast at the subject parcel from the southwest corner. Now looking northwest, the subject parcel from the southeast. Are you looking north from the south? No comments received from within the zoning area. Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval of a special use permit case number 2307, subject to the following performance condition. Within 60 days of approval by the board, the owner or agent shall do the following: provide an ARS 12-1134 waiver, record an agricultural disclosure statement, record an agricultural disclosure statement, navigation, and infrastructure disclosure statement. Also, the following operational condition: the approval of the special use permit is based on the site plan submitted by the applicant. Any change from this site plan requires prior approval by the planning director. Mr. Chairman, that concludes staff's presentation, and the applicant is present.
The applicant wish to address? Okay. Any discussion by the Board of Supervisors? We'll open up the public hearing. Public hearing is open for anybody that wants to comment. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. We go ahead and approve case number, special use permit number 2307 as presented, as approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
We have a second from Chairman Simmons. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed, motion carries. Item number 3, Javier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Javier Barraza, Senior Planner, presenting special use permit case number 2306, a request for a special use permit per section 614.03A of the Yuma County zoning ordinance to allow a green hydrogen production facility on 2 parcels, the total 151.86 acres in size, zone heavy industrial, located in the Yuma Mesa planning area, vicinity of County 19th Street and Avenue 1E on the southeast of that intersection in Yuma, Arizona, under the 75 plus decibel noise contour. The intent is to build a green hydrogen production facility. This is the subject parcels, crosshatch, parcel 6 on the north and parcel 5 on the south. Property's access on the north via County 19th Street, which is a paved road, and on the west along Avenue 1E. Property is in desert terrain. Parcel on the north, 005 and 001. The 005 is in agriculture. 001 is fallow, zone RA10. Parcel 003 and 004 to the east and south are zone RA10 in desert terrain. Then we have parcels 004, 003, and 002 on the west, zone heavy industrial. These are the location of a landfill, the expansion of it, and a glass recycling facility. This is the site plan submitted by the applicant of the proposed hydrogen production facility. This site plan, it's also on the south. They're providing an extra 200 feet from the parcel on the south. It's needed for the facility. This is a rendering of the proposed facility provided by the applicant. This is an aerial view showing the different cases around the subject parcel that have occurred in the last years and all the way back to 2012. This is a view looking north at the intersection of Avenue 1E and County 19th Street. Now looking southwest of the subject parcel from the northeast corner. This is a view looking west of the subject property. Staff received comments from the Arizona State Land Department, Arizona Game and Fish, MCIS, and Southwest Gas. We received one letter in opposition, I think, from the property on the north. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the special use permit case number 2306, following to the performance conditions. Number 1, the owner or applicant must provide an ARS 12-1134 waiver within 60 days of board's approval. Number 2, the owner or applicant shall record the following disclosure statements within 60 days of board approval. A recorded aviation disclosure statement, range disclosure statement, infrastructure and agricultural disclosure statement. Number 3, within 1 year prior to commencement of operation of the facility, whichever occurs first, a traffic study shall be provided in accordance with the Yuma County Public Works Standards, Volume 4, Section 4.5, and the developer shall construct all required improvements. Number 4, within 1 year prior to beginning operation of that facility, whichever occurs first, the owner will apply for and obtain a grading permit from the engineering department. Number 5, within 5 years of approval by the board, the property shall be split by means of a land division permit, accordance with Section 507 of the Yuma County zoning ordinance. And also the following operational conditions. Number 1, the approval of a special use permit is based on the site plan submitted by the applicant. Any change from the site plan will require approval by the planning director pursuant to Section 402.04 of the Yuma County zoning ordinance. Number 2, the special use permit shall be valid for a period not to exceed 30 years from the date of approval by the board. Number 3, the business will not open to the public. Number 4, prior to beginning operation, the applicant must install and maintain a sign at the entrance of the facility warning the hazardous materials. The sign must also provide the emergency contact information as well. Number B, item B, the owner applicant shall maintain and submit copies of all permits and notices from submissions to any federal, state, or local regulatory authority to the Department of Development Services. D, the owner applicant shall submit a copy of the safety data that are provided to the local emergency planning committee and fire department pursuant to the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act. E, the owner operator shall submit a copy of the chemical emergency response plan that was submitted to the local emergency planning committee, shall employ a chief safety professional and provide a 24-hour emergency contact phone number to the Department of Development Services. Number 5, prior to construction, applicant must provide to the planning director evidence of a valid decommissioning bond. If not verifiable to the county satisfaction, then the applicant SUP holder shall maintain a bond in the amount of the full decommissioning cost at the end of the anticipated life of the project. Net of salvage value as estimated by a professional engineer registered in the state of Arizona. Said bond shall be reviewed and approved as form, substance, and amount by the Yuma County engineer. The engineer's estimate of decommissioning cost shall be renewed no less than every 5 years by a professional engineer registered in the state of Arizona. And a copy of each renewed estimate shall be provided to the county engineer for review and approval. The decommissioning bond shall be adjusted in accordance with the renewed cost estimated within 30 days after approval by the county engineer. Mr. Chairman, that concludes staff's presentation. Ready to answer questions, and the applicants are present.
Does the applicant wish to address?
Yes, they do.
Please present.
Vice Chairman and members of the board, well, first of all, Elijah Shoemake, I'm Representative of Plug, who would be putting in the hydrogen plant here. And I really just want to thank the community of Yuma for being so involved throughout this process. I think we've gotten a lot of feedback and support, questions, concerns, comments from the community. This has really been one of the most engaged projects that I've been working on out of all of our hydrogen projects. I really appreciate it. It's led to great discussion and really helped us improve the project.
Thank you very much, Elijah. Any questions from any of the board members?
Not a question, more like a comment. It's been some time coming, so I've been involved from the beginning, and I think it's great that it's finally happening. It's happening in an area that, to me, needed some development different than a landfill, different than the Arizona,
Yes.
Don't tread on me, California stuff, and so I feel grateful that it's getting to a point now where we can move forward with it. Staff gave it a very high rating, and the Planning and Zoning Commission approved it at an 8-0 vote. So I think we're ready to go.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, I attended all of the outreach meetings that your companies have had, and I was very impressed with your organization, with your presentation, and with your to questions from the public. And I think that bodes well for your company and how well organized they are, and what a good job they'll do.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion? I'm sorry, let me open up the public hearing. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. We'll close the public hearing and we will entertain the motion.
Go ahead and make the motion. We approve this special use permit number 2306 recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'm surprised that the legal staff isn't asking you to ask if anybody's opposed, because they would ask me, where is anybody opposed? One.
It's unanimous. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, how are you?
The next item is
Number 4.
more minor amendment.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Minor amendment case 23-03.
Pleasure to hear the planning director.
Oh.
This is the text amendment case.
We all have the pleasure of hearing the planning director. Roll out the red carpet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a minor amendment to incorporate changes that were approved during the adoption process of the 2030 Comprehensive Plan. So these amendments were previously approved by the Board of Supervisors. However, when the draft plan went out for review, they had not yet been approved. So they were left out of the adopted 2030 Comprehensive Plan. One of them was text amendment 2201, was which was a change to the bicycle element of the, the Foothills bicycle routes. Which is section 6.4 of the comprehensive plan. And they were changes to the description of the Foothills bicycle route based on the change from being located on Foothills Boulevard to Ironwood Drive. Major amendment case 2202. This was a change to the Yuma Mesa planning area, changing approximately 160 acres from agricultural rural preservation to agricultural industrial. Properties located east of Avenue 1E and on the south side of County 19th Street. Minor amendment case 2202 was changed to almost 7 acres from agriculture rural residential to, agriculture rural residential to rural density residential. Properties located in the Yuma Mesa planning area. The vicinity of Avenue 3E and County 18.5 Street. Southeast corner there of the intersection. Minor amendment case 2203 was a change to 1.69 net acres from suburban density residential to urban density residential. Properties located in the Foothills planning area, southeast corner of Fortuna Road and the alignment of County 12 3/4 Street. It's just this, parcel 13. Minor amendment case 2204, which was changing 80 acres from suburban density residential to urban density residential. Again, in the Foothills planning area, northwest corner of Fortuna Road and County 13th Street. And the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the changes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for the presentation. We will open up for a public hearing. Is there anybody that wishes to address regarding this item? We will close the public hearing.
But real quick, I have a question for Maggie. On the realignment over to Ironwood, how come they didn't look at El Camino del Diablo? It's a wider road and it's a straighter road.
Mr. Chairman, it was the recommendation of the Bicycle Coalition that made the recommendation to change it to Ironwood and not El Camino del Diablo.
They're probably trying to avoid that a
Yeah.
little bit because there's more traffic.
Yeah, a lot more traffic. Right. Okay, what's the will of the board?
I'll make a motion that we approve, I think there's a bunch of them on here.
Minor amendment, make it number 2303.
Yeah, 23, minor amendment 2303, text amendment 22-01, major amendment case 22-02, minor amendment case 22-02, minor amendment 22-03, and minor amendment 22-04.
All in your district.
We have a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There you go, Tony.
Thank you,
I can take a hint. Javier, item number 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Javier Barraza, Senior Planner, presenting special use permit case 2309, a request for a special use permit per section 604.03M of the Yuma County zoning ordinance to allow an accessory dwelling unit on a parcel that is 1.2 net acres in size, zone low density residential, 40,000 square feet minimum, located in the Martinez Lake planning area at 9812 North Dove Lane in Yuma, Arizona. And the intent is to build a site-built home as an accessory dwelling unit. It was clarified as for family member, not a guest. That came from the application at time of applying. This is the zoning and vicinity map showing the subject parcel, cross-hatching highlighted in red. Property is improved with a site-built dwelling as access on the south along Dove Lane. Parcels to the north are zone R140. All of them are improved with site-built dwellings. Parcel 4 surrounding the parcel, subject parcel on the west and east and south is desert terrain. It's also the location of the Martinez Lake. Parcels 002 and 003 to the south are improved with site-built dwellings, zone R140. This is an aerial view showing the subject parcel. This is a zoom in. This is the site provided by the applicant. On the right, you will see the existing dwelling, and on the left, which is the west, is the proposed accessory dwelling unit. The area highlighted in yellow is the slope. The existing slope is about 40% according to the applicant. This is a view looking southwest Dove Lane. Looking west of the subject parcel. This is a view looking northeast of the subject parcel. You can see the slope. The existing dwelling on the property is on the right. This is a panoramic view of the subject parcel where the applicant intends to build the proposed. Also, there's a slope from where I took the picture. Zoomed in. Staff received 11 letters in opposition to this request, 3 of them from property owners within the zoning area and 8 from property owners outside the zoning area. We received comments from Arizona Game and Fish, as well as the Yuma County Treasurer's Office. The Planning Commission's recommendation is approval of a special use permit case number 2309, subject to the following performance condition. Within 60 days of board approval, the owner or agent shall do the following: provide an ARS 12-1134 waiver and record an infrastructure disclosure statement. Also, the following operational condition: the approval of the special use permit is based on the site plan submitted by the applicant. Any change from the site plan requires prior approval by the planning director. Mr. Chairman, this map shows where the opposition comes from. And Mr. Chairman, with that, staff concludes the presentation and is ready to answer questions. And the applicant is here and wish to speak.
Okay, we'll hear from the applicant.
Let me ask a question.
Sure.
Question?
Does that at all trigger the?
Oh, we got that. No, it doesn't trigger a supermajority vote, Mr. Chairman. They got the more than 20% by number, but not by area.
You call him chairman, the chairman, the chairman.
We're all chairman.
We're all chairman.
One chairman. Lynn is the chairman. Lynn is 2 terms. So.
Chairwoman.
Look at you.
Yeah, now call me Terry. Yeah.
No, it doesn't trigger the supermajority. I just wanted to know that.
Okay, we'll hear from the applicant. Thank you, Javier.
Welcome.
Vice Chair, members of the board, my name's Aaron Mundinger. I've been a resident of Yuma for quite a few years. Moved here from San Diego. My dad was a contractor in San Diego. The rules and regulations of San Diego, a lot firmer. San Diego, now you don't even have to go through this process if you want this on your property. There's a housing crisis. I believe it's here in Yuma as well. I believe, in my personal opinion, I'm for property rights. I live out by Lake Mitri on 6.5 acres, and I have multiple dwellings on my property. I believe it falls in the setbacks, I don't see why this cannot be taken care of and a homeowner have this on their property, especially for family. So that's my opinion on this, so thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, it's access points. I mean, it seems to me your access would be through, well, I can't see it from here, but.
Dove Lane?
Yeah, so you don't have access problems, do you?
No, there's going to be engineering involved because of the slope. We have to go through an engineer. Homeowner's going to pay for all this. So there is a little bit of some block wall, some masonry going on here, the slope. So, but get it closer down by the water.
There's two other parcels in there. I see that, but there's 2 other parcels in there?
Parcels, yeah.
They have no problem with access either. I mean, I can see the road, that road, but I don't, I mean, does property owners get to them by that side road? Is that how they get to their property?
I believe the other property to the north of that you kind of see they come around to the east to the north, so they're coming around the front or the east side of the property.
That would be my concern if I was a homeowner in that area. You know, what happens once you decide to build a fence and decide to do, is that a dedicated right way? I mean, is that a question that, probably a question the homeowner could answer.
Mr. Chairman, there's an access easement along that connects, but they organically use.
The surface.
So there is an easement.
There's an easement that provides access to the properties
So
of the
there won't
north.
be a situation where you can simply go to
That
neighbors
is
and
correct.
say.
There's an existing easement. Also, there's one that allows to go into the water,
Got
like
it.
right
All
away.
right, I just want to make sure that one, everybody has access to the properties, and second, that they can get to.
Yeah, there's several easements all over these four parcels
Hills, yeah.
to get access to water.
All right, got it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. We will open up public hearing, and we have 3 forums. We will start off with David Simpson.
I have a lot out at North Martinez Lake at 12330 Roadrunner Road. I'm currently doing the developing on the lot, putting in retaining walls. I oppose anything that increases the density housing that can occur on the North Shore. If you approve this, I'm certain that there will be more ADUs being applied for. It's 1 acre minimum. I bought there because it was 1 acre minimum, and I expect it to stay that way. There's already a problem with rentals out there as it is. People are parking trailers and doing makeshift hookups. Property adjacent to mine has as many as 6 hookups at one time. I've reported that, and the county just doesn't have the ability to police all these people. I believe that as these ADUs go in, they're going to become rentals. So we're just going to flat increase the density, whether the zoning allows for it or not, by circumventing the zoning system. And I oppose anything downgrading the lot sizes. In 2020, we were here, a woman, Judy Knowlton, wanted to split off a 1/3 acre because she was in financial straits. Her husband passed away. I empathized with her. I spoke to her. I told her that I understand your situation, but there's what we call the unintended consequences to the decision. Once she had that, if it was approved, if she had that 1/3 acre lot, then my neighbor next to me had a 3 acre parcel. Once I purchased, he split his into 3. If he could turn around and have split those into 1/3 acres, because after all, they would have to come to the board and ask for that change. And then when you denied them, then he could sue. Because why did you give it to her but not to me? And we discussed that with the attorney that was here at that time. And the question was asked that did it have merit? And he said yes. And I was asked, was this a consensus in the office? And he said yes. So once you have the zoning and you allow that modification, you've just opened the door for anybody else that decides to do the same thing. I don't believe, from what I understand, she wants this because she has an ailing family member. I would personally, if I had an ailing family member, I'd keep them within my home. That way, down close to the water would probably not be all that great of a situation, I guess. I don't know for certain what her mother's condition is, but I would say keeping them close by would be smarter. That's what I did with my father, and when he passed away in 2016. So I'm opposed any changes that will increase the density in the North Shore. Okay?
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Charlene Riley.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Supervisors, thank you for allowing me to speak here today. My name is Charlene Riley. My mother owns property close to that on the North Shore. She has for 37 years now. So she's been here since the land was being leased, before they were all purchased. And like most residents, we want to keep it low density. This proposed permit went before the zoning commission, And they listed 6 different reasons why this should be denied, but they still approved it to come to you. The objections are as following. No other ADUs have been approved in the surrounding area. And as Dave said, this would set precedents. When these properties were purchased from the county or from the state trust, there were about 23 parcels that were divided up. And you got to lay out what you want. Okay, I want this little piece here and I want this piece here. And everybody paid the same amount of money. Some people couldn't get more than a half an acre. That's all they could. Some people got more. As David said, his neighbor had 3 acres. They split it into 3 parcels. So out of those 23 parcels, 7 properties were legally subdivided, adding an additional 14 homes, just in the legal manner. Now, ADUs, in my opinion, is just the next best thing because there is only 2, maybe 3 parcels left on the North Shore that have enough land that could be legally split without a variance or without a change in the zoning. Those 2 parcels I don't see ever splitting. So I think this is the next best thing, is to allow these ADUs and still get another home on 1 acre. It's going to increase our population. As Dave said, you're going to be forced to allow it for other people. I have probably at least half of our 1.73 acres that my mother owns, probably half of it is below a slope on the water. And it will flood down there. I've seen it flood 50, 60 feet from the bank. And this is asking for 122 feet from that water. It will flood. It's just a matter of when and how bad. So it is in that floodplain. The surface water is present. You can see the surface water is right there. The property is a large distance from transportation, shopping, services, and employment. Yes, it says in the planning's report that it's a 10 minutes response time from the Yuma County Sheriff's substation. But that substation is not manned 24/7. Our area is understaffed by the Sheriff's Department, and they're not able to properly protect and control the area and the citizens that are out there now with the high rate of weekend visitors that we have. I mean, our population just increases over the weekends, and it's insanity out there. And the Sheriff's Department doesn't do anything about it. They literally don't. We got 8-year-olds running side-by-sides out there. They're not doing anything about it. So to stretch them even more as the population grows all the way over onto the North Shore, that's going to be hard to do. In addition to that, yes, we do have a fire station out there now, but the fire department is very limited in its staffing due to financial restraints. Can't find their way to the North Shore most of the time. And emergency medical services still need to come from Yuma. So that's, an average response time of 45 minutes. In their report says the soils are severely limited for septic tank absorption fields because of the low permeability. And if I am reading the plan correct here, it appears that the homeowner intends to put an additional septic system for this ADU right on the water level, 22 feet from the lake. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a contractor, I don't know the laws and how you do things like that and still keep it safe, but it concerns me to have another septic system put on this property right next to the water. And as Javier said, that's a great slope. That's a 40-degree slope down there. And the one thing that you see there in the picture is that's not a road on that subject property. That's more of just a walkway that's in there. So those were all submitted by the planning support staff. I think they're all good and valid reasons, but just to add a couple other quick ones, The well water, we're all on well water out there, and I believe at this time, all 4 of those dwellings, and those are big houses, they're not always occupied because we have a great percentage of people on the North Shore that don't live there full time. Some of us stick it out, stay there all year round, but most of the homes out there are not. There are some, but I don't know what the figures are, so I'm not even going to guess, but a lot of them are weekend people vacationing. And water is a big deal. It's a big deal. How many more wells are we gonna, sink before we dry up our aquifers? The driveways, and I think it kind of got mentioned, from what I understand on the petitioner's drawing, is that they intend to put another road in, and I could be wrong, but I read that drawing to say that another road was going to be put in to get down below off of Dove Lane. And density, density, density. We don't want it. We don't want more and more people out there. They paid good money, and there's a lot of people that rent their places out there now, legally. I'm not going to tell somebody, you can't rent this or do this or that, but those rentals are a pain in the butt. The people don't, they don't have respect, not all of them, but, these renters don't have any respect for the land, the wildlife, the people, or their properties. Property next door to us sold a couple years ago, and, well, the guy was in the process of trying to do some work on the property, friends and visitors out there, and their kids were all over on their side-by-sides, on our property, on the neighbor's property, they're all over. So you know what? I want my 1.73 acres. I don't want anybody encroaching on that. And more renters are going to come. If these ADUs are allowed, it may say in the rules that they can't rent them, but nobody's going to police it. You guys aren't going to police it. You're not going to come out there and say, oh, who's in this place this weekend? There are so many things that are done out there now that are illegal, and you can't do anything about it. You don't have the manpower to go and, check everybody off. So, mark my words, it'll be done. It's getting done. Things are being done, whether they're legal or not. I like the low light thing because I have neighbors' light shining right in my face every night on my deck. I don't know why people want lights on all night when they're not there, but it's just my opinion. That's a pet peeve of me because I sit out there every night and look at the beautiful view I have of that lake and so forth. So again, we oppose this request. Nothing personal, nothing emotional. In 2010, a resident tried to subdivide. It went round and round and it was turned down. 2020, somebody tried to subdivide. We went round and round and it was turned down. And you can all have, your own research to do to look at all the reasons there. I'm not going to take you all through that, but I think that this ADUs and the special use permits are just a way to get around the zoning, and we oppose it. As a community, a good portion of it. I only was able to contact a few people, but we want to keep it low density. And the notification, I don't know if I can throw this in here, but on the notifications for these matters, we tried to bring this up last time in 2020 when we were in here. And we would like to see a notification to all the North Shore residents be sent out on anything concerning variances, zoning, special uses, or anything like that. We're talking less than 50 residences, and we really would like to see that happen. I know it got approved for a case-by-case basis, but in our situation out there, we are such a small community, and what one person does is going to affect the rest of us. So we would like to see that. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Charlene. Mr. Charlie Bush.
Time's up.
Yeah, I'm certainly not opposed to development because I've been involved in it for years in San Diego. We bought out there on North Shore for a specific reason, because of this zoning. You know, we happen to own Fisher's Landing, and I'm very familiar with Martinez Lake and the density we've got there. And that's the only place around there that you can maintain a decent sized property without being infringed on by other entities. And these ADUs are basically rentals, and that's the way you have to look at it. And for me, I think it's going to really affect property values out there significantly. I mean, you've got people out there that have given $750,000 to $1.2 million for a piece of property on the water, only for that reason. So I oppose it on that basis.
Thank you, Charlie. Are there any other?
I have a comment.
Okay, well, I was gonna ask if there's anything else in the public.
Okay, after you're done.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to address this at this time? Okay, I will, but I wanted to open it up.
Okay, okay, Javier, I have a question. Do you have the square footage of that property that's right sitting up there?
The subject parcel,
Uh-huh.
it is 1.2 net acres.
No, the
residence.
dwelling.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
The dwelling, how big is the dwelling? Well, it looks to me that if, it looks to me that it's big enough to take a portion of it and make into a
It's
resident of a facility for,
probably 4,000 square feet.
yeah, or better. It seems to me that there should be enough, that they could do an interior redraw of it, and put in an ailing family member and leave them separate, but adjacent, and not infringe, and put a whole nother structure down below where it's gonna flood when we have 100-year rain. So to me, that, or they could even add, it looks like there's plenty of room to add an additional, what you would call mother-in-law's quarters or a family member's quarters that you could add to that piece of property and attach it to it without having to get additional zoning changes. So if they're using it, if they want it for an ailing family member, it seems like they could find enough room in that 4,000 square feet for them.
Okay, we're ready for motion?
Make a motion? I'll make a motion.
Let me close the public
Oh,
hearing.
okay. Well, I thought you did.
I thought you already had.
No, because Lynn wanted to jump in before I closed it.
Oh, okay.
All right,
Always me, always.
we're gonna close the public hearing. Comes back to the board.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we deny the
request,
the special permit request, and mainly due to the fact that we haven't approved these in the past. And if we start doing it now, like I said, I think it opens a huge door that we don't want to step through. The residents, I know the residents, I watched them when they built it. I think it's more than large enough to handle, right now, nobody's living in it, so it's large enough to handle multiple people. So my recommendation is to deny.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay. Motion carries 3-1. Okay, we will go to reversion hearings, rezoning reversion public hearings. In accordance with section 404-01I7 of the Yuma County zoning ordinance, the board will conduct a hearing to grant an extension of time to comply with the schedule for development, determine compliance with the schedule for development, or cause the property to revert to its former zoning clarification in the following cases. And we have 2 items. Javier?
Thank you, Vice Chairman Lyons, members of the board. This is rezoning case number 21-23 in accordance with section 404.01. In this case, the property will revert to its former rural area 10-acre minimum. This is the current zoning map. Property is currently zoned light industrial 2-acre minimum. This is the original zoning map when the parcel was zoned RA10. This is the site plan submitted by the applicant. And this is an aerial view showing the subject parcel. Staff did not receive a request for an extension of time from the applicant owner. At this point, staff recommends to the board of supervisors revert the zoning to for the parcel to its original rural area 10-acre zoning district for rezoning case number 2123. Staff is ready to answer questions.
I have a question. I thought reversion hearings were not, they weren't a public hearing. Is this a new policy or it's always been, or is it a rezoning case and that's why?
It's a reversion to rezoning. It's a public hearing.
Okay. I thought it did, but hey, I could be wrong.
Can I open it to a public hearing now?
I guess. The vice chairman left, so we're gonna open it to public hearing. I guess.
We're opening it to a public hearing.
Oh,
Here he comes.
So sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. Open up the public hearing.
Got
Going
Going
once, going twice, 3 times, closed?
I just had a quick question. When was it originally approved?
Was approved on December 20th, 2021.
Well, this is very soon.
We've been placing 1 year. It's time to bring it for reversion.
So did you contact Mr. Vianney? I mean, Mr. A?
Yeah, they were contacted, yeah.
So there's.
Certified, no response from the owner, yeah.
Weird, I mean, we just changed that less than 2 years ago.
Well, but there isn't anybody complaining or wanting it to be held.
It's just a calendar item?
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Chairman.
I move that we revert it back to RA10.
You also have the option to grant an extension.
But nobody's here asking for it.
Correct.
But what's the harm?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they didn't get the notice.
Because it was industrial.
Maybe they didn't get the notice.
Because it was zoned industrial and I wanted
Maybe
to
they,
revert it
are
back
outside
to
of that
10.
300 feet and they just didn't get it.
Ah.
And their internet went down because they're living in Hyder.
Yeah.
I suppose that it doesn't hurt anyone to extend it for another year and just make sure that we contact them. I mean, at least that there's a response to it. If there's no response, if there's no response, one is to assume that he went through, the process and it was announced and it was But I think for this kind of cases, we probably need to have confirmation that the applicant received the notice.
Right. I would like that.
Don't you have a receipt return?
Yes.
Yeah, they have receipt return. They received it.
Was mailed to,
Did you receive it?
let me check.
I've gotten those, but actually have not gotten them.
Look, what makes me a little leery is that we only did this in 2021.
Right.
It's only been a year. I think we talked about how development
Okay.
happens. It sometimes takes longer than a year to get all this stuff done. But I can't say that. I obviously can't talk on behalf of the applicant because he didn't respond, but I'd be a little leery to revert something so.
Me too.
So soon.
What's the will of the Lord?
I make a motion, we give him a 1-year extension and find out.
Mr. Chairman, sorry to interject. You do.
I
have a-
already had a motion
Oh.
to return it to RA10.
Yeah, but there was no second.
Was there anybody who seconded? Okay.
Motion dies.
Motion dies for lack
Mr.
of a
Reyes,
second.
thank you very much for pointing that out.
To extend, to give him an extension for 1 year and see what happens and get confirmation they received the notice next time.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
3-1, motion carries. See, we have had.
This is weird, though.
Today, right, Tony?
That they didn't get back in touch with. Are they local?
I have documents. One of the agent is Dallin Robbins Engineering. So it was sent out, and I received probably confirmation, but I don't have it with me that it was sent out. But I need to check.
But Del Robbins is back here, so we should know.
They'll throw me in the middle of this.
If you don't want to get reverted. Okay, so what's the next case?
Okay, next case, item number 2, Javier. Pásale.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This is rezoning case number 22.
Don't let the peanut gallery distract you.
Okay, thank you.
Especially so close to noon. Move it. You're between us and lunch.
And in this case, the property will revert to its former suburban ranch 4-acre minimum. In this particular case, the applicant requested 2 years. Okay, so this is the original zoning map. The parcel was on suburban ranch 2-acre minimum. conditionally to Suburban Ranch 4-acre minimum. This is how it intends to split the property. Aerial view, and staff recommends granting an extension of time of 2 years to comply with the schedule for development for rezoning case 22-03. That concludes staff's presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Owner or representative here?
Owner, I don't know.
Okay. Would they like to address the BOS? No?
Okay.
Hey, get him scared.
Quick when you were ahead, huh?
So now we're going to open up the public hearing. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Close the public hearing, comes back to the Board of Supervisors. What is the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion, we approve the two-year extension.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nothing personal, right?
Any opposed? Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you very much, Javier, for all of your time today.
Chairmans?
And
Chairmans?
for being here with us.
You were just giving that was still nice you were on.
You just figured make us
You
all.
left and we all tried to be.
Introduce your new compadre, your new planner.
I'm going to stand over this.
Go ahead, Alejandro.
Sorry, Alejandro, since we're here.
Maggie?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Jesus Carrillo. He is currently processing rezoning special use permits, all public hearing cases that come before the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Oh, so he's a
And the Board of
prosecutor. He's processing.
Welcome.
Welcome.
We hope that Maggie
Nice
and
to
Javier
meet
treat you
you.
well.
I hope so as well.
Okay.
I see you shoot.
If not,
You need to
tell
run.
somebody-
Yeah, quick one.
There's no lash marks on the back yet or anything, so.
We're happy to
Welcome.
have you, yes.
Thank you very much. Discussion regarding legislative issues, and Alejandro's been waiting many hours.
And Intergovernmental Affairs. I'll be brief. I know you had a long meeting today.
End up being yes.
So I'll start saying that last week, Governor Hobbs' Interagency and Community Broadband Advisory Council had its inaugural meeting to discuss the goals of the council, plan, work groups, and next steps. The council will be tasked with supporting the state's broadband office housed at the ACA as they roll out the state's broadband equity access and deployment, which is a $993.1 million grant. Council is made up largely of state and local government entities, including representatives from counties, municipalities, tribes, institutions of higher education, and a variety of agencies. The county representative is Tammy Rial. She is Pinal County's policy advisor. She will be supported by CSA staff collecting and consolidating perspectives, input, and feedback from across the state. I'd also like to inform the board that the RFP seeking professional lobbying services from Yuma County has been issued and posted on the county's website. Individuals or firms interested in providing this service for Yuma County will have until October 13th to submit the proposals.
Do you know if we have any movement on that?
Not yet.
Okay.
It was posted last Wednesday.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And last week, the CSA had a meeting with
Wow, look at all
County Managers
those.
Association.
Boy, Pima has a bunch.
And we're going to destroy them all.
We have 14 items, and I don't know if we want to go over them. They were presented to the CMA last Friday, and I've
Yes,
included
they-
a packet, a hard copy for you to review in more detail if you want.
No need to go over them.
Okay,
So we have time before the
Meeting,
Meeting.
Just
yeah.
wanted to give you a heads up.
thank you.
Yeah, I got that too. Mm-hmm.
So Congress resumes after a long recess, month-long recess. Tasks ahead through the end of the year include finalizing the federal budget by September 30th and negotiating a $44 billion supplemental aid package, including $16 billion dedicated to addressing recent natural disasters. NACO has sent a letter to congressional leaders urging them to prioritize federal investments in crucial local government activities through the fiscal year 2024 appropriation process. This letter includes top priorities for counties, including full funding of the payment in lieu of taxes, also known as PILT. I can also share that, according to NACO, a substantial package to address natural disasters is under negotiation with the White House. FEMA has announced restrictions on disaster recovery spending due to diminishing funds in the disaster relief fund. This means that moving forward, only life-saving, life-sustaining, and critical disaster operations will receive funding until Congress replenishes the fund. And the Environmental Protection Agency and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers jointly announced a revised Waters of the U.S. rule, which defines the scope of waters protected under the Clean Water Act. This amendment replaces a 2015 Water of the U.S. rule and aims to provide clarity and regulatory certainty while preserving environmental protections. This is a key win for counties since the amendment narrows the scope of the federally regulated waters, a move aligned with NACO's policy priorities. Now, depending on whether a certain water meets the definition of the water of the U.S., counties may need to apply for federal permit to maintain or build new infrastructure projects.
Explain that to me a little bit more. It narrows it so that there are less restrictions, correct?
The water, in order for them to be considered waters of the U.S., the body of water needs to be adjacent to an already defined water of the U.S. It needs to be.
Yes. Got it. Thank you.
And there's 2 current lawsuits, right?
There's, yes, I don't have the name of the lawsuits right now, but EPA.
One, yeah.
How does that impact us?
Well, it will impact us depending on the final ruling. I believe that one had been bifurcated and then going back to the Supreme Court for a decision, and it was because of water that was adjacent, but not necessarily part of it. And that's been in litigation for almost 13 years now.
Okay.
Hoping for that final ruling. And then I apologize, I don't remember the particulars on the other.
I can say this, Mr. Chairman, if I may. The amended waters of the U.S. rule provides a more precise definition of what constitutes waters of the United States. It includes 4 categories: traditional navigable waters, certain tributaries, certain ditches, and certain lakes and ponds. The rule also clarifies specific exclusions for certain water bodies. Now, the impact on Yuma County, because of our, it may have different implications because of agricultural activities, land development, and conservation efforts. So, yes, we definitely need to do a little more.
But even stormwater or water runoff was part of the discussion that we had Friday.
Oh, okay.
With
Yeah.
No,
Is there any real traction to this draining Lake Powell?
Is there any, well, I don't want to get off topic, and Bill's giving me the Ojo, so we can place that on a future, and I can give you an update from WIFA.
Thank you. That's what, yes, update from WIFA.
I can do that.
Okay. Thank you.
If the chairman would
There's
like
ways
that.
around, Bill.
Not that I know.
Go ahead, Alejandro.
So moving on to International Border Affairs, the Arizona Border Counties Coalition sent a letter last Friday to DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, asking him to consider the detrimental consequences of releasing asylum seekers from Customs and Border Protection stations into border communities in Cochise and Pima counties. The letter reads, and I quote, "The Arizona Border Counties represented in this coalition have been providing services for several years that are appropriately services of the federal government. As the numbers of asylum seekers increase, this support is not sustainable. Arizona cities and towns are simply not in a position to continue to provide critical government services that are a responsibility of the federal government. The Department of Homeland Security has abrogated its responsibility for the transportation, housing, medical support necessary to protect the illegal asylum seekers and our citizens," and I close quotes.
And I would like to follow up on that just briefly. I'll be testifying on that before Congress on Wednesday to the Homeland Security Committee. And I wanted to make sure that the other supervisors were aware of the fact that they are planning on purchasing the area near the old swap meet or the Greyhound Park and building a permanent facility there for processing, which is raising alarms. 1 in Arizona, 2 in Texas for permanent
Processing.
illegal processing.
Will we have judges there as well?
And no.
Aye.
And in Arizona over the weekend, in several areas, they started the street releases.
Bisbee was one, yes.
4 or 5 different communities, and that will continue today with no resources for the communities. I'll be testifying on several different points for our community, including some expressed concern by MCAS and YPG, et cetera.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Lastly, the City of Mexicali Mayor Norma Bustamante has extended an invitation to the members of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors to join her for her second State of the City on October 2nd at 6:30 p.m. in Mexicali. And that would conclude my presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Alejandro. And what's the pleasure of the board? Shall we go into the full-blown report or? Okay, Lynn, we'll start with you.
Oh, good. Okay. Go.
Get the best out of the way first.
I attended a city council meeting for a rezoning project. I attended Morning Scoop with the Capital Times via Zoom, which was diving into Arizona water management. Very informative. I went to the Yuma County Job Fair that was attended. It was packed. It was really nice, and I attended later in the morning, and they said that they had a line at the very beginning, and that it was even more. It had more people early in the morning than it did when I was attending, and when I was attending, there weren't any parking places out in front of the library, so it was very well attended, and hopefully we will generate some recruitment from that job fair. Workforce development meeting, I went to it and then we had to cancel it from lack of a quorum. I went out to the East County and so that I could find the two parcels that are, the two areas that are trying to be rezoned, and I went out there so I could actually see where they are and recognize what they look like. So that was a very informative meeting. I met with Ian. I met with the leadership of GYEDC. Tomorrow I have my WACOG meeting with the Regional Council on Aging and the town hall with the state legislators. So there's go.
Thank you very much. Darren.
So I was a guest speaker at the Tea Party, held a community meeting in the foothills where I had to break it into two meetings because I had over 160 people there. Attended Antelope High School meeting where the superintendent was kind of giving an update on the status of the school and how that's going. Attended a Houdini solar presentation to the public out in East County. Comprehensive plan meeting also at Antelope over some rezonings that are coming before us here fairly quick. Met with Ian and some others reference to permitting process. Also met with Charlie Bush out at Martinez Lake over some of the issues that came up during the recent heavy rainstorms and things we're trying to deal with there. Met with some precinct committeemen, reference their concerns, and numerous constituents about upcoming zoning and other issues.
Oh, East County, woo.
Senor Reyes.
All right, most of my time is consumed by border issues, so I'll mention a few of them. First of all, I'd like to thank GSA. I don't know if we ever had a chance to thank them for their reception of whatever they held that morning. I'm still trying to figure out what that was. It's supposed to be a groundbreaking, but it was more of an explanation of what's going on. But at least we got a report on what's going on with the construction at the border, and that is going pretty fast. It's border crossing construction. It looks really fast. I mean, I suppose it's like when you lay down the foundation for a house and you're clearing of the older sections of the buildings that were out on the sides. It's pretty dramatic. I did get a call from the port director last Friday regarding the proposed, I think he thought it was 50% of deployment of the Border Patrol and Customs officers or Homeland Security officers to processing the asylum seekers, which to him would mean that he would have to cut the number of lanes from 8 to 4 and from 4 to 2. Both the traffic crossings and the pedestrian traffic. He called the mayor of Yuma, who called the mayor of Douglas or Nogales, and the mayor of Nogales called the supervisor. Anyway, this chain got going, and pretty soon they reach us through the Arizona Border Coalition. They were releasing people in the streets, and they wanted to know why that policy was in place. Things developed to a point where I think that basically that didn't happen over the weekend. I think that the port director, either on his own or with some support, decided he wasn't going to do what he was being told to do. So I don't know what the situation is today. We haven't been there, but it's a moving target. And so I just wanted to make the point that it is a situation that requires immediate attention. I made it a point to tell everyone that I talked to, the Yuma counties, I always said that's a federal problem, that every time we deal with it, it becomes our problem. And so having made that point, I had to tell the border supervisors in both FEMA and Santa Cruz that the more they get involved in transporting or doing those things, the more they're going to have complaints when the Homeland Security or the Secretary of Homeland Security makes any changes, or the White House decides they're going to make a change. The more you do to solve this problem, the more that it's going to impact you economically and otherwise when things change. So anyway, that was one. I want to thank the consulate for the invitation to the September 15th event. I know some of you went down there, and it was a good event. It was a great event. I also want to talk about a possible meeting with, no, not a possible meeting, a meeting we have tomorrow with Great Yuma Port Authority entities, not the border directors of the Port Authority, but the entities as we talk about what the future holds for that particular authority in terms of what they're tasked to do by the different communities. This is driven by the desire of the city of San Luis to sort of withdraw from it. And so we're having a meeting tomorrow at 11:30, I think, at the Cocopa Resort restaurant, where we'll talk about this at length. I guess that's about it for my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. I spent a lot of time talking to people about the Houdini Solar. The Greater Yuma Port Authority had a meeting with Mayor Rydell. Spoke to several congressmen about testifying before Homeland Security Committee. Attended GYDC meeting and several other constituents regarding proposed projects here in Yuma County. Ian, would you like to report on anything?
Mr. Chair, just briefly met with Danny Ortega of APS, had numerous one-on-one meetings with supervisors. Attended the AZ County's insurance pool meeting via Zoom, also remotely attended the County Managers Association meeting, went to the Wine, Date, and Bacanora event held by the Mexican Consulate down in San Luis, Arizona. Chairman Porches was also there, and Alejandro was the MC. And happy to report that my annual ICMA credentialing program renewal has been approved by the Credentialing Advisory Board. That's it. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. And if there's nothing else for call to the public, I'll close that one last time. And meeting adjourned.